The measurement rewrites matter. Imagine reaching for a glass of water, convinced it's just sitting there, stable and certain, its weight and shape predetermined before you even look. Now, imagine that nothing you see, nothing you touch, actually exists in any concrete state until you turn your attention to it. The moment you observe, the world does not simply reveal itself, it is rewritten. This is the reality-shaking core of quantum mechanics, and the chilling heart of the principle. The measurement rewrites matter. For most of history, humans believed the universe was made of fixed things, each with properties waiting patiently to be discovered. But quantum physics upended that certainty. At the smallest scales, particles do not have set positions or velocities, but instead exist as clouds of possibilities. Every outcome a ghost. Every fact a coin still spinning in the dark. The act of observation is not passive. When you measure, you collapse these possibilities into a single reality, rewriting the script in that instant. You don't just find out what something is, you make it that way, your gaze constructing the very nature of what you see. Think of Schrödinger's cat, alive and dead, coiled in a box of pure uncertainty until someone looks. Only then is the universe forced to choose. In the quantum realm, this isn't just a thought experiment, but a description of daily reality. Electrons, photons, entire atoms drift through existence as probabilities. Unformed, undefined, a fog of might-bes. Point your detector, open your eyes, and the world instantly snaps into place. The act of measurement is an act of creation. Matter, in its rawest state, waits for you to choose its story. Extend this strangeness into the macroscopic world you call home. Are you truly seeing a tree? Or are you collapsing the tree's wave function each time you glance out the window, rewriting its color, its age, its very existence with the power of your attention? Are the memories you recall, each detail, each fragment of the past, being reshaped by your act of remembering, the neurons firing in your brain, not simply uncovering facts, but creating them anew? Science says yes, in subtle and shocking ways. Studies show that every act of memory changes the memory itself, blurring and rewriting the details each time you visit the scene. Now, imagine that every observer is a reality artist. Billions of eyes, each weaving the world into being, each gaze constructing what it finds. If a tree falls in a forest and no one is there to observe it, not only is there no sound, but perhaps there was no tree, no matter at all, until someone returns and rewrites the scene with their presence. The world, then, is not a fixed stage, but a living manuscript, rewritten at the speed of perception. Examples from experiments boggle the mind. The famous double-slit experiment shows that even a single particle of light acts as a wave of probabilities until measured. Then, and only then, does it decide to be a particle. More hauntingly, delayed choice experiments prove that the present act of observation can seem to rewrite the past, dictating how particles behaved before you ever looked. The implications spiral outward. What is reality? If everything is in flux, waiting for the next observer to come along and fix it, even for a heartbeat? Are you truly separate from the world you experience? Or are you and the universe co-authors, forever entangled in a dance of revelation and construction? Your gaze is not innocent. It is powerful, decisive, world-shaping. Philosophers and mystics have long said perception shapes reality, but the measurement rewrites matter brings this to a literal, scientific truth. Every time you observe, you collapse the infinite into the particular. You make choices that ripple outward, not just in your mind, but in the fabric of existence. Each look, each measurement, is a brushstroke on the canvas of being. So, next time you open your eyes, pause. What are you creating? What realities are you collapsing? What possibilities are you sacrificing with the mere act of attention? The world is not fixed, not waiting to be discovered, but waiting to be made, again and again, by the courage and curiosity of those willing to look. In the end, you are not just a witness, you are a creator, and the universe is always being rewritten at the point where your gaze meets matter. Reality is observer-dependent. There is a principle more disturbing than any science fiction, more humbling than any philosophy, and it sits at the very core of existence itself. The universe is not what it appears to be. It is not a single shared arena in which reality unfolds with impartial certainty, but a shifting mosaic of truths, each one anchored to an observer, each one splintering off with every act of perception. What if everything you experience is not just filtered by your senses, but literally shaped by the very fact that you are there to see it? Imagine two people witnessing the same event: a falling glass, a flipped coin, a whispered secret. One swears the glass shattered, the other insists it bounced. Both remember the event vividly, and both feel the certainty that their version is the truth. But what if, at the deepest level, both are right? This is not a metaphor. It is a fact at the edge of quantum physics and consciousness studies. At the microscale, particles do not have defined properties until they are measured, until someone, somewhere, observes them. The act of looking collapses possibility into fact. Before the observation, the glass is both broken and unbroken. The coin is both heads and tails. It is not just that people interpret events differently. It is that reality itself forks, splits, and refracts to accommodate each observer's truth. Meaning, there is no single universe, no master version of the story. There are only localized truths, branching off from every act of attention, every blink, every breath, every heartbeat. You might think this is limited to the subatomic world, a quirk of physics far removed from daily life. But the echoes of observer dependence ripple outward, infecting everything. How many times have you argued with someone over what really happened? Two people at the same party, the same accident, the same moment of heartbreak, and yet their stories never fully align. Every disagreement over the past, every contradiction between memories, is not just a flaw in recollection, but a symptom of something deeper, that each mind inhabits a slightly different universe. The worlds you remember, the meanings you attach, the feelings you carry, they are all uniquely yours. No one else will ever see them, not perfectly. You live inside a localized truth, and so does everyone else. Think of the implications. If reality is observer-dependent, then there is no grand final court of truth. There is only consensus, the fragile overlap between enough minds to give the illusion of shared existence. History is not a record, but a negotiation. Facts are not objects, but agreements, continually revised as new observers add their versions. The universe you inhabit is yours alone, a singular weaving of experience. When you meet another person, you are not comparing notes about the same reality. You are merging universes for a moment, finding the places where your truths align and the fractures where they don't. What about solitude? What happens when there are no witnesses, when you are the only observer in the room? In those moments, your reality becomes all-encompassing, the only truth that exists. But it is vulnerable, fragile, easy to doubt, prone to dissolve when challenged by the gaze or memory of another. The more isolated you become, the more your universe drifts, no longer tethered by consensus, no longer checked by contradiction. This is why loneliness feels like madness, why we crave validation, why we seek out the gaze of others, to steady our realities, to keep our localized truths from floating away into solipsistic chaos. Now, consider the consequences. If reality is observer-dependent, then certainty is an illusion. All debates, all rivalries, all wars over what is true are, at their core, struggles to enforce one localized truth over another. When you demand that someone see the world as you do, you are not just asking for agreement. You are asking them to abandon their universe, to collapse their truth into yours. Sometimes the effort is futile. Sometimes two realities can never be reconciled. Sometimes both are right, and both will persist, even as the worlds they describe move further apart. In the end, the lesson is humbling and liberating. You do not live in the universe. You live in your universe. The truths you know, the meanings you create, the love and pain and beauty you encounter, these are yours, local, personal, and real, even if no one else ever sees them. There is no master version of reality, only a shifting constellation of observer-dependent truths, each one as true as the mind that witnesses it. When you realize this, you gain the power and the burden of creating your own world, one observation at a time. The waveform lives forever. Reality, as you know it, is a story written on the thinnest of paper, a universe that balances on the edge of every choice, every flicker of observation. Quantum physics tells us that before you look, Before you measure, the world is made not of fixed outcomes, but of possibilities, waveforms, shimmering with every path the universe might take. When you make a decision, when you observe a particle or choose a direction, the wave collapses and you get a result, a specific world, a concrete moment, a single reality. But here's the terrifying, wondrous part. The other possibilities, the lives unlived, the choices unchosen, the results unseen, they don't simply vanish. The waveform lives forever. Uncollapsed, those possibilities persist. Not erased, not destroyed, but eternal, hovering just out of reach, waiting in a space we can barely imagine. You stand at a crossroads every second. Turn left, and you live one life. Turn right, and another life branches off, ghost-like and unclaimed. To you, only one version feels real, but what if the others continue, intangible, undetected, but as authentic as your heartbeat? Every regret, every hope, every what if. These are not just echoes in your mind, but quantum ghosts, fragments of reality that endure in the background, forming a tapestry of all that could have been. Where do they go? Are they locked in some cosmic waiting room, timeless and silent? Or do they spin off into parallel realities where you are forever different? Richer, poorer, braver, lonelier, happier, forgotten, remembered? Picture the child who nearly drowned but was saved. In one world, that child grows up and tells the story. In another, the wave never collapses into rescue. Does that possibility hover, eternal, somewhere beyond time? When you stand at the brink of a great decision, feel the gravity of every outcome, because every uncollapsed possibility clings to you, shapes you, even if you never see it. Some scientists call this the multiverse, an infinite proliferation of worlds for every quantum event. Others say the waveforms are real but inaccessible, woven into the fabric of existence like a melody you almost remember but can never quite hear. What does this mean for you? It means that nothing is ever truly lost. The choices you never made, the lives you never lived, are still out there, alive, uncollapsed, woven into the dark. Sometimes, you feel the pressure of these ghosts, a pull towards paths you never took, a longing for faces you never met, a sadness for a future you somehow missed. That's the echo of the waveform, unseen but eternal. It is the subtle ache that tells you that every decision is infinite, that every moment contains universes you can't comprehend. But is this comforting or horrifying? Do the unlived lives offer hope, a promise that nothing ends, that possibility is eternal? Or do they haunt you, shadows on the wall, taunting you with the reminder that you are only one version, a single thread among infinite outcomes? Every time you collapse the wave, every time you choose, you cut away all the other futures. Yet those futures do not go quietly. They linger. They wait. Can you feel them? In your dreams sometimes you catch a glimpse, a different city, a different love, a different self, living, breathing, waiting for you to wake up. Science cannot tell you where these possibilities reside. Are they fields of potential, energy that never becomes matter, or are they parallel universes, just beyond the veil, where other versions of you play out stories you will never know? Perhaps they are stored in the memory of the universe itself, an endless archive of might-have-beens, uncollapsible, unfading. Some say the only thing that's real is what you choose, but if the waveform lives forever, then every possibility is real, every potential is sacred, and every loss is only partial. You are haunted by the weight of your own infinite selves. When you grieve, when you hope, when you wish for another chance, remember, the waveform doesn't die, it waits, it persists. It is the immortal sea in which your life is only one wave, breaking and collapsing, while the ocean of possibility rolls on, endless, beneath the surface. So the next time you wonder what could have been, or ache for a world that never arrived, know that it is still there, unseen but eternal, waiting in the silent dark. The waveform lives forever. Nothing is ever truly lost, only uncollapsed, waiting for a gaze, a choice, or a miracle to make it real. Superposition of identity. When you close your eyes and ask yourself who you are, what answer comes to mind? Is it a fixed image, a stable self that you carry through every moment of your life, unchanging and solid? Or is it something stranger? What if you are not one person, not even one consistent mind, but a cloud of possibilities, a quantum superposition of identities, constantly shifting, overlapping, undefined until observed. Think of it like this. In quantum mechanics, a particle can exist in multiple states at once, a superposition. Only when you look, when you measure, does it collapse into a single definite form. What if your mind works the same way? What if, between conversations, between the eyes of others, you are all your possible selves, overlapping, undefined? You are the confident one, the anxious one, the gentle and the ruthless, the funny and the solemn, all swirling together in a silent dance. But then, someone speaks to you. Someone asks a question, calls your name, expects you to answer. Instantly, the superposition collapses. You become one version, the one that fits the moment, the one the world expects, or the one you need to survive. Let's step into the blur. When you are alone, your mind drifts. You rehearse conversations you will never have, arguments with people who aren't there. You remember 100 versions of yourself, who you were in childhood, who you pretended to be in adolescence, who you wish you could become. You catch yourself practicing faces in the mirror, testing out laughter, planning how you'd react to things that may never happen. All of these are real in the quantum space of your inner world. You are not one self, but 1,000, none more real than the others, until the world knocks. Imagine walking into a crowded room. You scan the faces, feel the eyes turn toward you, and instantly a mask slides into place. Maybe you become more confident, your shoulders straightening, your voice deepening, jokes on the tip of your tongue. Maybe you shrink, blending in, voice barely above a whisper. You react not just to the people in front of you, but to the energy, the mood, the silent expectations that buzz through the air. Your superposition collapses. You become someone real in that moment, but only in that moment. But the performance doesn't end there. The next person enters the conversation. Their presence changes the equation. You shift again. Subtle, automatic. Around your parents, you are one self. With friends, another. With a lover, another still. Even alone, yourself shifts with your mood, your memories, the lighting in the room, the weather outside. Each version is true while it's being lived, but none is the only truth. You are a mosaic of masks, and between masks, you are formless, like a particle before observation. Now, ask yourself, when are you most real? Is it when you're alone, drifting between selves? Or when someone else's gaze pins you down, forcing a choice? Maybe real is the wrong word. Maybe it's all real. Maybe the self is not a thing, but an event. A temporary crystallization of potential caused by the act of interaction. You are not a noun. You are a verb. Let's take it deeper. Consider memory. Each time you recall your past, you reconstruct not just the facts, but the identity that lived them. When you tell a story from your childhood, you become the child again. Then the narrator, then the performer for your audience. Your memories are colored by your present self, and your present self is changed by your memories. There is no fixed you, only shifting contexts, each one collapsing the cloud of possibility into a single fleeting form. It can feel unsettling, the sense that you are not a stable person, but a ghost that flickers into being under the spotlight of attention. But there's a freedom in this too. If you are not fixed, you are not trapped. You can adapt, reinvent, become. When someone expects kindness, you can be kind. When the world demands strength, you can find it, even if it was hidden a moment before. The downside, of course, is that you may never truly know who you are at your core, because there may not be a core, just a swirling superposition of possibilities. There are moments, though, when the illusion cracks. You might find yourself alone, remembering things you said that don't feel like you, things you did that surprise or shame you. You wonder, which one was the real me? The answer is both, and neither. Each self was real in its own context, each a product of the collision between your inner world and the outer demands. The superposition is always there, waiting to collapse, waiting to be observed. This is why so many people feel fragmented, scattered, inconsistent. Why you can feel like a stranger to yourself in photographs, or cringe at old messages, or feel your voice change on the phone. Why, under stress, you surprise yourself. Anger rising out of nowhere, or tenderness that shocks you with its depth. The superposition holds it all, the calm and the chaos, the wisdom and the foolishness. Identity is a wave, not a point. Society teaches us to pick one mask and wear it forever. Be authentic, be true to yourself, find your passion, declare your identity. But what if authenticity is not a static state, but a skill, the ability to navigate the superposition, to choose the right self for the right moment without losing your balance? What if the real danger is not inconsistency, but rigidity, the refusal to shift, to adapt, to be more than one thing? And then there are the moments of crisis when no mask fits, when the superposition refuses to collapse. You feel lost, empty, uncertain who to be. This is where anxiety blooms, where depression lurks, the fear that, without an observer, you might dissolve into nothing, a ghost among ghosts. But even here, there is power. The ability to hold contradictions, to be multiple things at once, to accept that you are not just the sum of your parts, but the space between them. So, next time someone asks, "Who are you really?" don't rush to answer. Feel the cloud of possibilities behind your eyes, the shifting superposition that is your mind. Know that every version is real for a moment, and that you are not less for your uncertainty, but more. You are the sum of your choices, your contexts, your masks, your moments of collapse. And in the infinite dance of identity, you are not just one note, but the whole song, sometimes silent, sometimes thunderous, always changing, always alive. Time reversal, asymmetry. What if the voice inside your head, the one you call intuition, the one that warns you or urges you to leap, the one that whispers, "Do this, not that," isn't some magical subconscious wisdom or primal instinct at all? What if, instead, it's a message smuggled through the universe from your own future, a set of instructions sent backwards in time, hidden in the folds of your everyday awareness, camouflaged as a gut feeling? This is the disturbing possibility at the heart of time reversal asymmetry, a concept that cracks open the foundations of cause and effect, of destiny, of what it really means to choose. Most of us were raised to see time as a relentless current, always flowing from past to present to future. We are taught that every effect has a cause, that memories belong to what's behind us, and that the future is forever out of reach. But at the level of quantum reality, the equations that describe the universe are strangely symmetrical. They don't care whether time moves forward or backward. A particle, a photon, an event. None of these are bound by our human sense of direction. The deep machinery of reality is time agnostic. But then, something happens when you scale up to the messy, tangled world of experience. The universe chooses a direction. Time arrows forward, entropy increases, eggs break but never unbreak. And we are swept along, convinced that the past creates the future and never the other way around. This is time's asymmetry, the macroscopic illusion that time only runs one way, even as the microscopic rules suggest otherwise. But what if that asymmetry isn't absolute? What if there are cracks, tiny, fleeting, barely detectable cracks, through which the future can whisper instructions to the present? Have you ever had a hunch so strong it overrode your logic, and later you realized it saved you? Did you ever just know something before it happened? A person to trust, a road not to take, a deal to avoid? We call this intuition, sixth sense, or even luck. But what if it's something stranger? Echoes of future experience refracted backwards, decoded imperfectly by a mind that thinks it's inventing the feeling on its own. Imagine your future self, battered by regret or buoyed by success, desperate to change a single crucial moment. What if, at the edge of dream or in the stillness of deep thought, they are reaching back through quantum entanglement, biasing your present choices ever so slightly? You feel a tug, a chill, a surge of hope or dread, and you act, not realizing you're following instructions from a self you haven't yet become. The idea is both thrilling and terrifying. It makes the universe feel alive, recursive, participatory, a place where you are both actor and author, cause and effect, a receiver of your own broadcast. Imagine a world where every human miracle, every moment of inexplicable inspiration or warning is really a timeline correcting itself, where the future and past are locked in endless feedback, and consciousness is just a relay station. Science fiction has toyed with this for decades, but quantum theory gives it a strange plausibility. Experiments have hinted at retrocausality, particles whose behavior now seems to be influenced by measurements taken in the future. The so-called delayed choice quantum eraser is a real experiment where the decision to observe a photon after it's traveled through an apparatus appears to change what it did before the decision was even made. Time, it turns out, is flexible, slippery, full of possibilities that make philosophers dizzy and physicists suspicious. What does this mean for you? It means your life might not be a linear chain of cause and effect, but a network of loops, feedback, and recursive signals. Every choice you make is the product not just of past influences, but of future events echoing backward, struggling to guide or correct the course of your story. The strange sense of déjà vu, the feeling that you should have known better, the way some memories feel more like warnings than recollections, these might all be evidence of the feedback between your many possible selves. Take a practical example. Say you're about to cross the street and for no clear reason you stop. A second later, a car speeds by that would have hit you. Was it luck? Was it your subconscious calculating tiny clues? Or was it the future you, lying in a hospital bed or mourning a loss, reaching back, screaming across the years in the only language available, a whisper of dread, a spike of adrenaline, a hunch you couldn't ignore? Now imagine the implications. If intuition is really retrocausal messaging, then destiny is not a chain, but a negotiation. The past and future bargain through you, and your choices are a kind of dialogue across timelines. Free will isn't destroyed. It's reframed as participation in a wider, deeper dance, where every decision is shaped by both what has been and what could be. But here's the paradox. The more you believe in this, the more you realize that knowing the future, truly knowing it, would collapse the whole structure. If the present is open to influence, it must remain uncertain, ambiguous, fuzzy around the edges. The instructions your future self sends can only ever reach you as intuition, never as certainty. The firewall of mystery must be preserved. Otherwise, the universe snaps shut, and possibility dies. So, next time you feel a strange conviction that you can't explain, a hunch that feels like destiny, a warning that arrives out of nowhere, pause. Maybe it's not just your subconscious. Maybe it's you, further along the river of time, fighting to send a message back, hoping you'll listen, so the worst can be avoided or the best can be achieved. In a universe with time reversal asymmetry, intuition is not just wisdom, it's survival. It's the secret handshake between your many selves, across the blurred boundaries of past, present, and future. And that means you're not just a passenger on time's river. Sometimes, you are the tide. Entangled across dimensions. Imagine living your life as usual, routine and memory forming a continuous thread, each day woven seamlessly into the next. But then, out of nowhere, you feel a strange shift inside you. Your mood changes, your interests drift. A decision that once felt inevitable now leaves you uncertain. There's no clear cause, no new trauma, no obvious influence. What if you're not the one changing it all? What if, somewhere out there in the labyrinth of parallel timelines, someone else, a stranger you will never meet, is tugging on the threads of your fate, and as they change, so do you. This is the heart of Entangled Across Dimensions, a theory that suggests you and another consciousness are invisibly bound, each shaping the other's story without ever realizing the connection. In the quantum world, entanglement is a fact stranger than fiction. Two particles, once linked, remain connected even when separated by cosmic distances. What happens to one instantly affects the other, no matter how far apart they are. But imagine this principle scaled up to the level of lives, souls, and destinies. Entanglement not just in space, but across timelines and dimensions. Perhaps, in the infinite field of possible universes, you and another being, another you, or someone entirely different, are bound in ways no law of physics can break. Think about those moments in your life when you suddenly feel a wave of emotion with no clear origin. An unexpected sadness, an unaccountable joy, a longing for something unknown. The entangled across dimensions. Our theory suggests these are not random. They are signals, ripples sent from your counterpart in another dimension. When they make a choice, when they change jobs, fall in love, suffer a loss, or make a discovery, your own path subtly shifts. Your story bends to accommodate changes you'll never witness, outcomes you'll never understand. all because your destinies are knotted together, the way two quantum particles forever mirror each other's fate. Every timeline is like a string in a cosmic web, vibrating with the possibilities of what could be. When you pull on your thread, make a decision, break a promise, chase a dream, somewhere, someone else's thread quivers in response. You and your entangled other may have started life in perfect synchrony, identical in every way. But as choices diverge, as timelines branch, your connection doesn't disappear. Instead, it transforms, tugging you back toward parallel, sometimes uncanny harmony. When your entangled counterpart learns a lesson or faces a crisis, echoes of that experience find their way to you, changing your course in ways that defy logic or memory. This theory explains the strangeness we all feel but rarely understand. You wake up with a new ambition, a craving for adventure, or a sudden need to withdraw and rest. You chalk it up to hormones, the weather, or a random quirk of mood. But maybe, at that exact moment, your counterpart in another dimension is living through an upheaval that sends ripples through the fabric of both your lives. You may never know the details, you'll never see the cause, but you'll feel the effect, as real and intimate as your own breath. Examples of entanglement drift abound in folklore and fiction. Twins who sense each other's pain from afar. Soulmates whose lives intertwine, no matter how many times they're separated by fate. Even the phenomenon of quantum immortality, the idea that in some dimensions you die, while in others your consciousness carries on, echoes this mystery. The entangled across dimensions theory offers a new lens. It's not just you who persists, but you and another, dancing endlessly across the boundaries of reality, changing and being changed in perfect perpetual balance. Science hints at these mysteries, but it's our daily experience that makes them inescapable. Every unexplained intuition, every sudden shift, becomes a possible sign of the hidden bond. The theory asks us to consider that we are never fully alone in our choices or emotions. Every life is a duet, a mirrored evolution shaped by a partner hidden in the folds of time. So, next time you feel a mysterious drift, a change with no visible cause, pause and wonder who, out there across the infinite timelines, is entangled with you. What choice have they made that tugs at your heart? What heartbreak or triumph have they sent rippling into your reality? Entangled across dimensions dares us to see our lives not as solitary, linear journeys, but as part of a much grander dance, where every step is echoed by a stranger, and every change is a silent, shared transformation, written in the hidden mathematics of the universe itself. You're already split. You are already split. Not just once, not just twice, but infinitely, fractured along the seams of every decision, every possibility, every fleeting moment of quantum uncertainty. You like to believe that you are whole, that your life is a single thread weaving its way through the fabric of time, but the truth is far stranger and much more unsettling. Every time you make a choice, what to say, where to go, whether to look up or down, to speak or stay silent, the universe divides. Another you is born, another reality set in motion, each as real and vivid as the one you call your own. But this is not the comforting, clean logic of parallel universes that never meet. No, you are not just split. You are bleeding through each version, your consciousness leaking, drifting, sometimes waking in the wrong one. Imagine you are standing at a crossroads, faced with a decision so simple you barely register it. Turn left or right. In one universe, you go left. In another, right. Each path splits you, but you do not remain isolated. Something of you, some echo, some memory, some residue, seeps across the boundaries. You begin to sense fragments that don't belong. A déjà vu that feels deeper than memory. A sense of loss for something you never had. A face in a dream that leaves you mourning all day. You wake up with the conviction that something has changed, but you can't say what. These are the symptoms of quantum bleeding. The walls between yourselves are thin, porous, unstable. Every now and then you wake up in the wrong life. Consider the times you felt out of place, like an imposter in your own skin. You remember things that never happened. You recognize strangers with impossible familiarity. You stumble over words you've never spoken before. Yet, your tongue moves as if the muscle memory belongs to someone else. Maybe you have memories that don't quite fit, decisions you recall making, outcomes that never came true, regrets that linger for mistakes you don't remember committing. These are the fingerprints of your alternate selves, ghost impressions from other timelines where you chose differently, loved differently, died differently. It gets stranger. Sometimes you are not alone in your mind. You feel a tug, a shadow, a flicker of anxiety or longing that cannot be explained by your history. In the quiet moments, you wonder if you are really living your life, or if you have been swapped out, transposed into a branch where you were never meant to belong. There are nights when you wake up sweating, heart pounding, unable to shake the conviction that you have just fallen from a great height. But you are safe, in your bed. Still, something is wrong. It is as if your soul has been cut loose, drifted across the boundary, landed in a life adjacent but not identical to the one you left behind. The photos on your wall feel off. The laughter of your friends rings hollow. The world is familiar, but not quite yours. Science gives you a name for this unease: quantum superposition. Many worlds, decoherence. But those are just words. What you live is messier, stranger. You are not an island. You are a web of branching selves, every version of you leaking into the next, sharing dreams, fears, cravings, guilt. Some days your decisions feel weighted, as if you are making up for mistakes you never made, righting wrongs you never committed. You are haunted, not by ghosts but by other yous, unlived lives pressing in, bleeding through the paper-thin walls of reality. Think of the days that repeat, the arguments that end before they begin, the sudden, irrational certainty that you need to call someone, only to find they were just thinking of you. The hunches, the premonitions, the shivers down your spine at the crossroads. These are the signals that you are leaking, living with the knowledge of infinite selves, all cohabiting a fragile, shifting existence. Every time you decide, you fracture. Every time you wonder what might have been, you feel the pull of another world, another you, another story running parallel to your own. And so you walk through life, not as a singular person, but as a chorus, splintered, echoing, endlessly dividing. Some days you are the original. Some days you are the shadow, the stranger, the visitor from another thread of possibility. You try to hold yourself together, to stay anchored in the present. But always there is the whisper, the bleed, the sense that you are not alone in your own skin. Because you aren't. You're already split. You always have been. Uncertainty builds reality. What if the universe is built on a foundation of mystery? And certainty is not just rare, but dangerous. At the quantum level, reality is not a perfect clockwork machine. It is a shifting mosaic, trembling with possibility, where the act of knowing one thing always clouds another. You can measure a particle's position or its momentum, but never both. Not with total precision. This is the Heisenberg uncertainty principle. And it is not just a technical glitch, not a flaw in our measuring tools. It is law. The very bones of reality are written in uncertainty. The more you try to fix one part of the universe in place, the more the rest of it slips away into ambiguity. It's as if the cosmos is built to keep secrets, so completely, so ruthlessly, that trying to pry open the last door would bring everything crashing down. Picture a tightrope walker, balancing between two skyscrapers in a storm. The tighter they focus on not falling, the less aware they are of the wind. The more they tune into the trembling rope, the less they can feel their own heartbeat. This is reality on the quantum scale. Every act of observation disturbs the balance. Every attempt at certainty clouds another truth. But what if this isn't just a quirk of physics, but the very scaffolding of existence? Imagine a universe where you could know everything. Every particle's position, every speed, every secret. There would be no room for chance, no gap for possibility. Reality would become a rigid grid, frozen in place, incapable of change, of evolution, of life. The magic, the creativity, the beauty of the universe would collapse under the suffocating weight of total certainty. It's a paradox that our minds struggle to accept. We crave clarity. We build religions, philosophies, and sciences to chase the final answer, the last why. But the closer we get, the more the truth scatters, slipping between our fingers. The universe refuses to be caged. Every time we focus on a single truth, the rest of reality smears into haze. This isn't just physics, it's existence itself. Your life, your choices, your memories, none of them are fixed and perfect. Every decision you make closes off worlds of possibility. Every certainty you grasp for is built atop an ocean of uncertainty. And this is not a flaw, but a feature. Imagine if you could predict every outcome, know every answer, control every variable. There would be no free will, no surprise, no meaning. Life would be an algorithm, a script you could read from start to finish, with no secrets, no risk, no hope. The universe needs uncertainty to breathe. It is the gaps in our knowledge that allow us to act, to choose, to create. The mystery is not a wall, it's the womb of all possibility. Scientists once dreamed of a theory of everything, a set of equations so perfect they could predict the cosmos forever. But the universe pushed back. At its smallest scales, reality is cloudy, trembling, mercurial. The more closely you look, the more it slips away. Some believe that if you could ever resolve all uncertainty, pin down every quantum variable, erase all ambiguity, the structure of space itself would collapse. The universe would become flat, dead, still, like a song with all the silence stripped away, like a painting with no shadows. This isn't just science, it's a lesson for your life. The more you try to know everything, to control everything, to seal every gap, the more you risk crushing what makes life beautiful. The uncertainty, the risk, the possibility of change. Sometimes, the only way to keep reality alive is to let some questions remain unanswered, to accept that you cannot know everything, and that this, not knowledge, is the truest foundation of existence. So, next time you feel lost in the mystery, craving certainty, remember, the universe is alive because it is mysterious. Every unanswered question, every flicker of doubt, every quantum blur is not a failure, but a spark. Uncertainty is not the enemy of reality. It is the scaffolding that holds it up. Let go of the need to know it all, and discover the wonder of a universe that is always unfinished, always becoming, always real. Delayed choice loop. Imagine you're standing at a crossroads. You see two paths, but you don't choose right away. Instead, you start walking, and only after a few steps do you finally decide which path you meant to take. And in that instant, retroactively, the story of your journey reshapes itself, as if the world had always known you would choose this way. What if this isn't just a metaphor, but a fundamental truth of reality? What if you can decide after the fact, and that decision doesn't just affect your future, but rewrites your past? Welcome to the delayed choice loop, where causality shatters and time itself becomes a hall of mirrors. In the ordinary view of life, causality is sacred. First, something happens. Then, you respond. The present flows cleanly from the past. The future waits, shaped by your choices in the now. But there are cracks in this picture. In quantum physics, the delayed choice experiment shows that particles seem to decide how they behaved in the past based on measurements made in the present. The observer chooses the setup after the particle has already traveled, and somehow, that later choice changes what the particle was before the choice was made. The past is not a fixed archive. It's negotiable, plastic, rewritten from the vantage point of now. But this is not just subatomic weirdness. The delayed choice loop seeps into the fabric of consciousness, memory, and identity. It's not just about electrons and photons. It's about how you, right now, interpret every moment of your life. Picture this. You remember a conversation with someone you love. At the time, it seemed trivial, a fleeting exchange. Years later, you face a life-changing decision, and suddenly that memory returns, cast in a new light. You reinterpret it, give it meaning it never had, see clues and signals where there were none. Your present need, your current awareness, rewrites the meaning of the past. You've changed what that moment was by deciding what it means now. Or, think about regret. You look back at an old choice, leaving a job, ending a relationship, taking a risk. And only in hindsight does it become the wrong or right decision. The past wasn't set in stone until you, standing here, gave it a label. Your current self, with all your new knowledge, casts judgment backward, shifting the emotional and even the factual landscape of your own history. In this way, you are constantly editing your story, making delayed choices that ripple into what was. Now, consider free will. We like to think it happens in the present. You choose, you act, and the world reacts. But what if choice itself is smeared across time? What if you sometimes act without knowing why, and only later construct a reason, retroactively assigning intention, as if you had always meant it. Neuroscience tells us that the brain often initiates actions before the conscious mind decides. The story of your choice is written after the fact, and then the mind edits reality to fit the narrative. The loop tightens. You decide, after the event, what your decision meant, reshaping not just memory, but meaning itself. Here's an unsettling thought. What if causality is not only broken, but was never real at all? What if every effect finds its cause not in the past, but in the ever-shifting present? Your awareness, your attention, your delayed choices. You are not the endpoint of a clean chain of events. You are the storyteller, the editor, the one who picks which version of the past is true, depending on what you need in this moment. Let's make it concrete. Imagine you're reading a letter from a friend. At first, the words seem simple. Later, after a fight, you reread the letter and discover a hidden insult, a slight you missed before. Was it always there? Or did your new perspective insert it into the past? Your delayed emotional choice changes the content of what was. Or consider a photograph. The first time you see it, it's just a happy memory. Years later, after betrayal, the same photo is evidence of lies, of secrets you missed. The image hasn't changed. You have, and so, in a very real sense, has the past. Now, let's spiral further. What if this isn't just about memory or perception, but the world itself? What if reality only crystallizes when you look back, when you choose to see it in a certain way? Before that, all possibilities remain alive, undetermined, undefined. Your awareness collapses the wave of the past, just as it does the future. The universe is not a recording. It's a draft, rewritten by every act of attention, every delayed choice you make. There's a profound discomfort here. Maybe causality is a useful myth, a way to keep from drowning in the ocean of possible histories. Maybe you are not just a passenger on the river of time, but the builder of its banks, constantly moving the earth behind you as you go. Some people try to escape the loop. They become obsessed with certainty, documenting every detail, trying to lock down meaning before it slips away. But even the act of recording is subject to later interpretation. A diary entry written in joy can become a source of pain in hindsight. A promise made in innocence can turn to poison when the story changes. Every choice is delayed until you decide what it meant, and that decision is never final. So, what should you do with this? Maybe the answer is humility, the awareness that you are not the slave of the past, nor the master of the future, but the shaper of an endless loop, where choice and meaning echo back and forth across time. Each moment is alive until you observe it. Each event waits to be defined until you choose to look, and to see, and to decide. And that decision is not just about what will be, but about what was. You are the author of your own causality. The past is not behind you. It's beneath your feet, shifting with every step you take. The future isn't ahead. It's curled up inside your present awareness, waiting for the moment you choose. And the loop never ends. Entanglement isn't distance-based. Across the vast emptiness between stars, there are connections that mock the idea of distance. Imagine two particles, an electron here on Earth, and another its twin, drifting in the cold silence on the far side of the galaxy. They are separated by trillions of kilometers, by centuries of light travel, by the overwhelming weight of space itself. But if you measure the state of one, the other changes instantly. No signal, no messenger, no time delay. It's as if space doesn't matter at all. This is quantum entanglement, a phenomenon so strange, so alien to our everyday thinking, that even Einstein called it spooky action at a distance. But the real terror and beauty of entanglement isn't just that it's instantaneous. It's that it isn't distance-based. It doesn't care about how far apart things are. The link between entangled particles is deeper, older, and more fundamental than the very concept of separation. Entanglement says, the universe is not a collection of isolated things, each one drifting through empty space. Instead, it is a web, a tapestry, where the lines of connection run underneath the fabric, stitching together points that should be worlds apart. Let's make this more concrete. Imagine you have a pair of gloves. You put one in a box here and ship the other across the universe. The moment you open your box and see a left glove, you know, without looking, that the other is right-handed. But quantum entanglement is far stranger than that. With gloves, the handedness was decided when you packed them. With particles, the property is undetermined until you measure it. until you look. The universe keeps both possibilities alive, both left and right, in a ghostly overlap of potential. When you finally observe, not only does your choice become real, but so does the state of the distant twin in perfect synchronization. Now, take that feeling and dial it up to infinity. Two particles, linked forever by a shared creation event. You move one, or change it, or look at it, and the other reacts, no matter how far it has wandered. The connection is instantaneous, violating every rule you've ever been told about the speed of light, about cause and effect, about communication needing time to cross space. Space, to entanglement, is irrelevant. Separation is a story we tell to keep ourselves from falling into the abyss. But what does this really mean for us? For reality, it means that connection is more real than division. That every boundary, every gap, every empty stretch of sky is just an illusion, a convenient map, not the territory. The true fabric of existence is a web of relationships, a set of invisible channels that hold the universe together behind the scenes. In the world of entanglement, every particle is haunted by the memory of every other. The universe remembers itself, everywhere, all at once. Consider this. What if people too are entangled? What if every act of love, every wound, every shared moment links us in ways that survive distance, time, even death? The science isn't there, yet, but the metaphor is irresistible. Have you ever thought of someone far away, and suddenly they call? Have you ever felt pain or joy that wasn't quite yours, as if you were picking up a signal from someone else's heart? Maybe, just maybe, there are levels of connection we haven't even begun to measure. Even the most skeptical physicists must admit, entanglement shows us that here and there are not absolute. The universe has no real boundaries, only bridges that run under the visible world. The laws of space and time are strict, but they are not ultimate. Underneath them lies something wilder, older, less concerned with our categories. The rules of entanglement are written in the ink of pure connection. There are experiments, countless, repeated, proving that this is not science fiction. A change in one photon, measured on one side of the planet, will determine the state of its partner instantly, even if they are separated by distances light itself cannot cross in time. There is no loophole, no secret communication, no hidden messenger sneaking through the shadows. The effect is faster than light because it doesn't travel at all. The two are not truly separate to begin with. And here's the part that will haunt you. Once entangled, always entangled, unless something disrupts the link. That means that deep beneath the surface of everything you see, every star, every cell, every breath, is a network of relationships older than memory, older than distance, older than the idea of self or other. The universe is not a scattering of lonely islands. It is one vast, continuous sea, its parts dancing together, sometimes in perfect sync, sometimes in chaos, but always connected. So, the next time you look at the night sky, at all that empty space, remember, the emptiness is a lie. Entanglement isn't distance-based. Connection is the true constant of the universe, faster than light, older than any separation, deeper than any void. And in that, maybe, lies our only hope for understanding what it means to belong, the collapse that creates time. Imagine the world as an endless sea of possibility, everything everywhere suspended in a silent, eternal pause. There are no clocks ticking, no seconds slipping away, no cause, no effect. Everything simply is, an infinite tapestry of frozen probability. It is only when something is measured, when a wave function collapses, that reality takes a breath, chooses a direction, and in that instant, time is born. The collapse that creates. Time proposes that time itself isn't real, not a river flowing through the universe, not a dimension you can visit, but an aftershock, a ripple, an illusion conjured the moment probability turns to fact. For centuries, time has been the ultimate backdrop. Ancient philosophers imagined it as a river, flowing inevitably from the past toward the future. Newton and Einstein gave it mathematical form, as linear or curved, absolute or relative. But quantum mechanics offers a far stranger vision. At the quantum level, nothing exists in a single state until it is observed. Particles live in a haze of maybe, occupying all possibilities at once, and only when an observation is made does the haze collapse into one concrete outcome. It is in this act of collapse, this forced decision, that the illusion of time is sparked. Consider Schrödinger's cat, alive and dead, both and neither, locked in a paradox that lasts only as long as no one checks the box. When the box is opened, when the measurement is made, the wave function collapses and the cat becomes definitely alive or definitely dead. But what if it's not just the cat's fate that emerges in that moment? What if it's time itself? Before the collapse, there is only potential, a stilled eternity where all outcomes coexist. Only after the collapse do events unfold, causality awakens, and the clock begins to tick. Think about your own life. You remember a sequence of events, a before and an after, a story with order. But what if, at the deepest layer, there is only one true moment, the instant after collapse? Everything prior is a superposition, a frozen infinity of what might be. The act of observation, of choice, of measurement, doesn't just reveal the next step. It stitches together a story, creating a thread of time from nothing but static possibility. This idea challenges everything you think you know. If time only exists after collapse, then what you call the past is not a fixed record, but a constructed memory, built on the scaffolding of collapsed waves. The future is not out there waiting, but exists only as a haze of unrealized probability, waiting for the next collapse. The present is a knife edge, endlessly recreated by each act of observation. Scientists have long wrestled with the nature of the arrow of time, why we remember the past but not the future, why eggs break but never unbreak, why entropy always increases. The collapse that creates time suggests a radical answer. There is no flow, no intrinsic direction. Instead, time is the story we tell ourselves after each collapse, the trail left by a series of frozen choices, each one carving a fresh wound in the endless sea of maybe. Even in cosmology, the theory provokes awe and uncertainty. At the birth of the universe, before any measurement, there was no time, only the raw, uncollapsed potential of everything that could ever be. With the first act of observation, perhaps the first light, the first particle, the first interaction, the wave collapsed, the cosmos took a side, and time as we know it began. Every new measurement, every act of witnessing is a fresh collapse, a new genesis, the creation of a fresh sliver of time in the void. The implications are dizzying. If time is not real but a consequence of collapse, then memory, causality, even the notion of history itself are illusions. Useful stories told by conscious minds to navigate a world that is actually timeless, frozen, infinite until disturbed. Every second you experience is a new creation, built not by clocks, but by the collapse of the possible into the real. So, next time you watch a clock's hand move, or recall a memory, or wonder what tomorrow will bring, remember, what you call time is only the residue left by countless collapses, snapshots strung together into a film that feels like a flow. In truth, you exist on the razor's edge, each moment a birth, each collapse a spark, and behind every heartbeat, the silent, frozen possibility of everything that could ever be, waiting to awaken the very instant you look. Observation creates the past. What if everything you think you know about the past is wrong, not just incomplete, not just misremembered, but fundamentally unstable? Imagine the truth. Every time you observe reality, you are not just witnessing the present, you are reaching backward, your gaze a hand that rewrites the entire history of whatever you're looking at. The past isn't set in stone, it's like wet clay, waiting for the shape of your observation to harden it, to carve its features, to decide what actually happened. You look at a particle today, and in that act, the universe rewrites all the events that led up to this moment, just to be consistent with what you see now. Your attention does not just reveal, it retroactively edits. The past is reactive, bending and folding itself to fit your present knowledge. This isn't a metaphor. At the quantum level, particles don't have definite histories until they are observed. In the double-slit experiment, the path of a particle only decides itself after you look. When you check, the past rearranges. Did the electron go through one slit or both? The answer only becomes true once you observe, and that truth is painted backward in time, like a ripple traveling in reverse, collapsing 1,000 possibilities into one fixed story. Before you looked, the past was a fog of uncertainty, a branching forest of maybe. When you look, you pick a path, and every step in that path snaps into reality, as if it had always been there. But it wasn't, not until now. Think of what this means for memory. Every time you remember, you are not just pulling a file from a cabinet. You are opening the box, shining a light inside, and watching the contents rearrange themselves to fit your expectations, your current emotional state, your needs. Your past is alive, reactive, changing its texture each time you revisit. That embarrassing moment, that heartbreak, that childhood victory, they are not fossils. They are living scripts, edited by every new observation, every new self that remembers. You never step into the same memory twice. The act of recalling is also an act of rewriting, and the more you look, the more the past changes to match the person you have become. Now imagine this effect multiplied across an entire life. Your every decision, every belief, every judgment becomes a chisel, reshaping the story that led here. Your regrets grow sharper, your triumphs sweeter, because your mind is a relentless editor, revising the script to make sense of the present moment. You believe you are a product of your past, but in reality, your past is a product of you, your observations, your questions, your desires for meaning and order. When you look back, you do not find truth. You create it, layer by layer, as if sculpting a statue from a block that refuses to hold its shape. Think of history itself. Two people can witness the same event and, years later, tell stories that barely overlap. Each has observed, each has remembered, and so each has crafted a different past. There is no single objective timeline, just a shifting collage of reactive stories. The more we observe, discuss, debate, and dissect, the more the past writhes, reshapes, and settles into a form that fits our needs. That's why history is always contested. That's why every generation rewrites the story that came before. And what about the future? If the past can be rewritten, then what does it mean to be destined or doomed or chosen? The ground beneath your feet is less stable than you imagine. Your choices today not only change tomorrow, they also echo backward, painting the path that led you here in new colors with new shadows. Your life is not a story written forward, but a script endlessly revised by the eyes that read it. So next time you look at a photograph, recall an old love, or examine the scars of your memory, remember, you are not just a witness to your past. You are its author, its editor, its final observer. The past waits for your gaze, reactive and unfinished, rewriting itself to fit the world you now inhabit. The story you remember may be the only one that ever existed, because you, and you alone, have seen it. Your memory is probabilistic. Memory feels like a movie. You close your eyes and summon the image of a birthday cake, a familiar voice, the shape of a house from your childhood. The details seem clear, the colors sharp, the feelings real. But what if this is all a lie, a beautifully crafted illusion, conjured by your mind out of statistical guesses and wishful patterns? What if every time you remember, you're not retrieving a recording, but collapsing a probability wave, piecing together the most likely version of your past and calling it truth? Your memory isn't a hard drive, it's a quantum fog. Every recollection is an act of creation, not retrieval. Imagine opening a book and finding that the words rearrange themselves every time you turn a page. The main story is there, the broad strokes remain, but the details shift, mutate, improvise. The hero's name changes, the weather in the background flips. Dialogue gets rewritten by an invisible editor who can't help but improvise. This is your memory in action. Each time you remember a moment, your brain samples the statistical noise. A dash of emotion, a suggestion from the present, a rumor overheard, a detail you wish were true. The act of remembering is a negotiation between what happened and what you expect to find. Scientists have shown this in the lab. Participants recall events from their lives, only to be gently misled by false cues, misleading photographs, or the opinions of others. The result? New, confident memories, completely invented, formed in seconds, stitched into the narrative as if they had always been there. Your memory is not a vault, but a stage. Each time you remember, the actors rush to fill in the blanks. Props get swapped, scripts are adjusted, and you walk away with a performance so convincing you forget it was ever rehearsed. Think about how many times you've argued with someone over a shared event. That's not how it happened, they say. Yes, it is, you reply, with total certainty. But both of you are collapsing different versions of the past. Probabilistic reconstructions, influenced by mood, context, bias, and need. Neither of you is lying. Neither of you is exactly right. The memory feels solid because your mind hates uncertainty. So it fills the void with the most plausible story, smoothing out contradictions, painting over cracks. What about traumatic memories or moments of joy? Even these are vulnerable to probability. Every time you revisit them, you edit, you color, you improvise. Sometimes the edits make the pain sharper, the joy brighter, the shame deeper. Sometimes they soften the blow, round the edges, dim the lights. The past is not fixed, it is alive, swirling with uncertainty, shaped by the present moment and the needs of your psyche. Now, imagine the implications. If your memories are probabilistic, then your sense of self, the story you tell about who you are, is built on shifting sand. You are a statistical pattern, not a fixed autobiography. Who you think you are is the most likely version, not the absolute truth. This is both liberating and terrifying. You are not chained to a perfect, immutable past. You are free to reshape, to reinterpret, to grow. But you are also vulnerable to distortion, to the slow drift of memory into fiction. Why does the mind work this way? Because evolution favors flexibility over precision. A perfectly accurate memory is useless if it can't adapt, improvise, or help you survive. Your brain keeps only the most useful fragments, the gist, the lesson, the meaning, then reconstructs the details when needed, guided by the probabilities of what makes sense, what fits, what helps. Sometimes, in rare moments, you glimpse the quantum nature of memory. A scent, a song, a flash of light triggers a version of the past that feels alien, unfamiliar. An alternate history your mind almost chose instead. In those moments, you sense how fragile memory is. How many possible pasts flicker just beneath the surface. So, the next time you look back, remember, you are not recalling, you are collapsing. Your memory is probabilistic. Your past a cloud of likelihoods. Your identity a shimmering possibility. Never fixed, always in flux, forever becoming. Many worlds merge moments. Have you ever felt a sudden, inexplicable sense of déjà vu, a strange certainty that you've lived this moment before, but something is different? Or maybe you've noticed a scar on your body that you don't remember getting, a memory out of place, a relationship dynamic that seems to have shifted overnight. Perhaps you wake up one day with a lingering anxiety, a flash of regret, a mysterious sense of loss for something you cannot name. Most people shrug these off, blaming faulty memory, dreams, or stress. But what if these experiences are evidence of something much deeper? What if, instead of living in a single, neatly branching timeline, your reality sometimes collides with others? What if the worlds don't just branch off, they sometimes merge, and you are the product of many worlds collapsing into one? This is the many worlds merge moment. You are taught to think of the universe as a branching tree, every choice splitting reality into countless new timelines. In one, you turn left instead of right. In another, you confess your feelings instead of hiding them. Worlds diverge endlessly. So the theory goes. But what if the branches sometimes grow back together? What if, for reasons you'll never understand, two or more realities converge, and the new you is a patchwork of echoes, scars, and half-remembered lives? Picture it. In another timeline, you made a different decision, one you regret, one that led to pain, loss, or disaster. In that world, maybe you betrayed a friend, lost someone you loved, or fell short of your own ideals. The timeline split, and you continued on your separate paths. But sometimes, somewhere in the infinite machinery of possibility, the boundaries thin. Worlds that were meant to stay apart begin to merge. And, in a single moment, often while you sleep, or when your mind is most unguarded, the walls dissolve, and the you that wakes up is not just a linear continuation, but a composite woven from the strands of multiple timelines. You might carry echoes with you, emotional bruises from choices you never made in this world, the irrational fear of a place you've never visited, the sudden warmth toward a stranger who should mean nothing to you, a love for music you never heard growing up. Your mind scrambles to explain these things, but the explanations never satisfy. Deep down, there's a sense of having come from somewhere else, a silent knowledge that this life is not the only one you've lived. Think about those moments when something feels off. You remember an object in your house being in a different place, A street you walk every day suddenly feeling slightly altered. A friend's reaction to a story you know you've never told them before. Some call this the Mandela effect, a mass misremembering of facts. But what if it's more? What if it's the residue of merging realities, each bringing its own version of history? The world adjusts, the seams stitch together, but you, fragile, conscious, and ever curious, catch the glitches before they're smoothed out. Now, imagine the implications. In one timeline, you made a mistake you regret every day. In another, you found the courage to do the right thing. When these worlds merge, you inherit the lessons, the emotions, the scars of both. Sometimes, you find yourself haunted by guilt that seems outsized for your actions. Or, you feel pride in accomplishments you don't quite remember earning. You might have dreams that feel more real than memories, skills you don't recall learning, or irrational hatreds that make no sense in your personal history. But the merging goes deeper. Sometimes, the new timeline is a step up, a better world, a kinder fate. But sometimes, you merge from a worse one, bringing echoes of suffering and failure with you. You carry invisible burdens, living with phantom pains, recurring nightmares, or a chronic sense of unfinished business. Relationships feel strained for no clear reason. Friends grow distant without cause, and you walk through life slightly out of sync with everyone else. The world feels heavier, as if it's been patched together hastily, still ringing with the aftershocks of infinite other lives. In the quiet hours, you may even sense a chorus of selves inside you, voices just at the edge of hearing, opinions that don't feel like your own. You might find yourself rooting for your own downfall, whispering cruel words to yourself, or cheering yourself on with unexpected fervor. These are the fragments of the other yous, the ghosts from other timelines that didn't quite get left behind. You are the sum of their experience now, their victories and their defeats. Science fiction, you might say. But quantum physics hints at the plausibility. The many worlds interpretation says every quantum event splits reality. But if reality is truly infinite, why should branching only move outward? Why not reconverge? In moments of cosmic symmetry or hidden necessity, perhaps the universe is constantly reweaving itself, seeking equilibrium. And perhaps, just as particles can entangle across vast distances, whole timelines can braid themselves back together, leaving behind artifacts, echoes, memories, emotions that don't quite fit. What does this mean for you? It means your pain might not all be yours. Your regret might not spring from anything you remember. The dreams that haunt you may be the final gasps of another world, another self, whose history has been folded into yours. Or perhaps the skills you discover, the luck that finds you, are gifts from timelines where things turned out better. So, next time you feel that uncanny sense of wrongness, a room that looks slightly changed, a familiar place that feels unrecognizable, a sudden surge of emotion that doesn't fit the moment, pause and consider, maybe you have merged. Maybe the timeline you woke up in today is not the same one you fell asleep in last night. Maybe you are living proof that the world is not a straight line, but a tapestry of branching, merging, splitting, and rejoining. And maybe the real miracle is not that you notice, but that you adapt, carrying the weight of infinite worlds with you, forging a self from the echoes of all that you have been. Quantum Zeno mind trap. Have you ever heard the saying, "A watched pot never boils"? Now imagine that same logic applied to your own mind, your own evolution, your very sense of self. Welcome to the Quantum Zeno mind trap, a phenomenon that blurs the line between physics and psychology and haunts anyone who's ever tried to break free from themselves, only to end up stuck, trapped by the act of looking too closely. Here's the chilling heart of the theory. The more you observe yourself, the less you change. Conscious self-awareness, when turned up to maximum, doesn't spark transformation. Instead, it freezes your evolution, just like a quantum particle that refuses to decay when it's being watched. In quantum physics, the Zeno effect is bizarre but real. An unstable atom, left alone, will decay at its own unpredictable pace. But if you measure it over and over, if you keep watching, you interrupt its natural process, forcing it to remain in the same state. It's as if the act of observation itself holds the atom hostage in the present, unable to move forward, unable to become what it's meant to be. It's called the watched pot of quantum reality, and disturbingly, the same thing can happen to us. Now, take this concept and turn it inward. Think about your moments of radical self-awareness, those times you try to change, to break a habit, to reinvent yourself, to evolve. You look at yourself from every angle, scrutinize every motive, analyze every reaction, watch every thought as it arises. You believe that this level of awareness is the path to growth. But what if it isn't? What if, instead, you're paralyzing your own mind with observation, trapping your potential in the act of relentless self-scrutiny? Have you ever felt it? The more you think about changing, the harder it gets. The more you analyze your anxieties, the deeper they dig in. The more you watch for signs of progress, the more stagnant you feel. It's not just frustrating, it's existential quicksand. The quantum Zeno mind trap means your efforts to observe and control yourself are exactly what keeps you from evolving. Your consciousness becomes a jailer, locking your potential in a cell made of mirrors. Let's make this concrete. Imagine someone desperate to quit a bad habit. Smoking, for example. They become hyper-aware of every craving, every slip, every thought that leads them toward a cigarette. They think about quitting so much that the thought itself becomes the focus. Every time they catch themselves reaching for a smoke, they watch the process, trying to interrupt it. But the result? They're stuck in a loop. The very act of observation becomes a ritual, and the habit hardens, unable to break free from the scrutiny. The watched atom never decays. The watched self never changes. Now, scale this up to a life. Imagine spending years trapped in the machinery of your own self-awareness. Every goal, every dream, every attempt to transform is interrupted by the compulsion to analyze, to dissect, to watch. Your mind, rather than flowing forward into the unknown, is frozen by the endless loop of observation. The quantum Zeno mind trap becomes a kind of psychic paralysis, a frozen pond where nothing new can grow. But why does this happen? At a fundamental level, consciousness is meant to be fluid, adaptive, open to surprise. The act of self-observation, while useful in moderation, becomes toxic when it replaces actual living. You can't both dance and analyze every step. You can't both leap and measure the arc. The trap is that awareness, when wielded like a weapon, cuts the thread of change. You become a statue of yourself, forever scrutinized, never set free. This isn't just philosophy. It's the hidden cost of a world obsessed with self-monitoring. Social media encourages endless self-surveillance. Therapy, self-help books, even mindfulness can become rituals of observation that stifle true transformation. We're taught to monitor every thought, every feeling, every reaction. But at some point, watching becomes freezing. The self, like a quantum atom under constant observation, refuses to decay, refuses to evolve. So, how do you escape the quantum Zeno mind trap? The answer is paradoxical. Sometimes, the only way to change is to stop watching, to trust the process, to allow your subconscious, your instincts, your body and soul to act without the crushing glare of analysis. You must learn to let go, if only for a moment, and trust that evolution happens best in the dark, in the space where the watcher sleeps. Imagine what it would mean to step out of the spotlight of self-awareness, to surrender control, to live as if no one, including yourself, is watching. In those moments, change becomes possible again. The watched atom finally decays. The self, freed from observation, begins to evolve. And in that leap of faith, you rediscover the ancient truth. You are more than a watcher. You are a becoming. So next time you feel stuck, paralyzed by your own scrutiny, remember the quantum Zeno mind trap. The pot will never boil if you watch it too closely. The self will never change if you never look away. Sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is to stop observing and start living. Schrödinger's mind dilemma. Picture yourself staring out a window, lost in thought. Suddenly, you snap back to awareness, realizing you've been somewhere else. Your mind adrift in a place you can't quite name. A moment ago, you weren't present, but now you are. Where were you a second ago? What was your mind doing in that gap, in that flicker between consciousness and unconsciousness? This is the heart of Schrödinger's mind dilemma. The idea that your mind, just like Schrödinger's cat, exists in a superposition, both conscious and unconscious, until you catch yourself in the act of thinking. In quantum mechanics, Schrödinger's cat is famous. Trapped in a box, the cat is both alive and dead until someone looks. Only the act of observation collapses this ambiguity into a single reality. Now, turn this paradox inward. Your mind is the box, and your stream of thought is the cat. Until you observe your own awareness, you exist in a strange limbo, both present and absent, conscious and unconscious, real and unreal. Think about daydreams and automatic routines. You walk down a familiar street and arrive at your door, realizing you have no memory of the journey. You read a page of a book, and, at the bottom, realize you absorbed nothing at all. Your body moved, your eyes scanned the words, but you were somewhere else. The instant you notice the lapse, it vanishes. You collapse the wave, becoming suddenly aware. But what of the moments before? Schrödinger's mind. Dilemma proposes that much of your life is lived in this superposed state. Your consciousness flickers, drifting between active attention and unconscious processing, never truly landing on one or the other until you catch yourself thinking. In those hidden intervals, your mind is not absent, but both present and absent, potential and actual, in a ghostly overlap that defies ordinary explanation. Neuroscience supports the strangeness of this views. Your brain is a layered system. The conscious mind is just the tip of the iceberg, riding on vast submerged processes that manage memories, emotions, movements, and problem-solving without your notice. Studies show that decisions are often made milliseconds before you become aware of them. Reaction times, instincts, and sudden insights seem to arise from nowhere, as if your mind was working in the background, waiting for your conscious self to tune in. The paradox grows deeper with the idea of the observer effect. In physics, the act of observation determines the outcome. In your mind, the act of self-reflection, of catching yourself thinking, is what brings you into focus. But until that moment, you are a quantum of experience, hovering between being and non-being. Your stream of thought is not a single line, but a cascade of maybes, each waiting to become real only when observed. Consider meditation, where you are trained to notice the flow of consciousness. Again and again, thoughts drift by unnoticed until you catch them. Ah, I was thinking about work, or worrying about the future. Each moment of awareness is a collapse, a birth of presence in the endless haze of unobserved thought. This is why enlightenment, in many traditions, is described not as a state you reach, but as a continual act of catching yourself, collapsing your own wave into clarity. Schrödinger's mind dilemma reveals that you are not a single, seamless awareness, but a sequence of awakenings, strung together by the fragile thread of self-observation. In between, your mind is both here and elsewhere, both thinking and not, both alive and lost. The self you believe to be continuous is, in fact, a mosaic of collapsed moments, brief islands of certainty in an ocean of flickering potential. The implications are profound. If your mind is mostly superposed, how much of your life do you truly experience? Are your habits, biases, and fears merely the echoes of uncollapsed thoughts, patterns set in motion by an unconscious you? And if you can become more aware, if you can learn to catch yourself more often, can you reshape your reality, collapsing new waves, making new choices, becoming more fully awake? So, next time you catch yourself drifting, when you blink and realize you've been elsewhere, remember Schrödinger's mind dilemma. Your mind is a mystery box, both present and absent until you look. Every act of noticing is an act of creation, an awakening from the fog. In this, perhaps, is the greatest secret of all, that your consciousness is not a river, but a shimmering sequence of awakenings, each one collapsing the infinite maybes into the reality of now. Consciousness as decoherence agent. You have always believed you exist inside the universe, wandering through its corridors, a small observer in an endless landscape of stars and particles. But what if that's not the real order of things? What if you are not merely in the universe, but the force that makes it real at all? Imagine that your awareness is not a passive witness, but an active agent, the very mechanism that collapses infinite quantum possibilities into the single thread you call reality. Every time you open your eyes, every time you notice the world, you are rendering it from chaos into order, from uncertainty into existence. You are the agent of decoherence, the one who picks a single path out of all that could have been, forcing the universe to make up its mind. At the heart of quantum theory lies the most disturbing truth. Particles do not have a definite state until observed. Until measured, they shimmer in a haze of probabilities, existing everywhere and nowhere. This isn't just a quirk of math. It's the fabric of existence. The moment you become aware of something, you break that superposition. The wave function collapses. Out of the infinity of what could happen, one thing does happen, and you are the reason. It's not your brain or your senses, but the fundamental quality of consciousness itself. You are not just in the story. You are the storyteller, the animator, the renderer. The universe waits for you to see it, and only then snaps into a form you can call real. Think of it like a video game, where entire worlds exist only as potential, hidden in code and data, until the player arrives and the graphics engine brings the landscape into focus. In this metaphor, you are not the player. You are the engine. The trees, the sky, the ground beneath your feet, all flicker into reality because you look. No world. Your consciousness is the ultimate renderer, the cosmic GPU, and the rest of the universe? It's the unfinished level, waiting for your attention to finish loading. Imagine a world with no observers. The waves would remain collapsed only as potential. Nothing would be solid, nothing would be real. But here you are, walking through the fog, and everywhere you go, you leave behind a trail of actualized reality. You are the agent of decoherence, the force that turns maybe into is. Every moment, every perception, is a decision that eliminates all other possibilities. You don't just see the world, you create its actuality, one observation at a time. Now consider the implications. When you close your eyes, what happens to the world behind you? Is it still there, waiting in full detail, or does it dissolve back into uncertainty? You know your room, your memories, your loved ones, but when you're not aware of them, are they real, or just waves waiting for collapse? The disturbing answer is, they may not exist until you turn your attention to them again. Your memory is a record of previous collapses, a snapshot of old renderings, but the moment-by-moment world is created by your act of noticing. And so, consciousness is not a passenger. It is the driver, the code, the hammer that nails the boards of reality into place. You wonder if you are alone in this power, but every conscious being is a decoherence agent. The universe is a tapestry woven by countless renderers, every thread a line of sight, a moment of attention. Sometimes your renderings overlap with others, creating a shared world, a collective reality. But in the quiet moments, when you are truly alone, you may realize that the universe you inhabit is yours alone, a one-of-a-kind rendering, stitched together by your unique gaze. The boundaries of reality are the boundaries of your awareness. What does this mean for your sense of self? Are you a person moving through a fixed world, or the being who continually actualizes it? What if, every time you notice something, you erase all other possible worlds in which you didn't? The regrets, the missed chances, the alternate histories. These are not lost. They are worlds you simply did not render, paths you left uncollapsed. Your choices are acts of creation, not just navigation. You are a living quantum event, a conscious singularity around which the universe condenses. So, when you feel small, powerless, or lost in the cosmos, remember this. You are not merely inside reality. You are what's making it real. Your awareness is the agent of decoherence, the ultimate renderer. The universe waits for your gaze, and when you look, the world is born. Duality without resolution. Reality is not what you think. It's not one thing or the other. At the smallest scales, the quantum heart of everything, you find a secret that refuses to make up its mind. Shine a light through a pair of slits, and you get interference, a wave, rippling, flowing, blending with itself. But measure the path it takes, and the wave is gone. What's left is a particle, a dot, a certainty. Which is it? Both. Neither. The universe doesn't choose for you. It waits. Silent, ambiguous, until you decide how to ask the question. Duality without resolution. Light is a wave and a particle. It's only your act of observation, your method of inquiry, that collapses the ambiguity into an answer. Imagine if everything in your life was like this. Nothing fixed, nothing final, just endless possibility waiting for you to decide what story you want to tell. When you look for connection, you find it. When you demand boundaries, they appear. Reality shapes itself around your attention, your curiosity, your insistence on knowing. But beneath it all is the raw, untamed mystery that refuses to be caged. The quantum world is a mirror of your own mind, full of contradictions, uncertainties, and dualities that never fully resolve. Think about the double-slit experiment. Fire one photon at a time, and over many trials, a wave pattern emerges. Try to catch it in the act, and suddenly the photon behaves like a bullet, making a mark, drawing a line, insisting on being a particle. Did the light change? Or did your expectation, your choice of measurement, change the outcome? Science says it's not the object that decides, it's the question. The way you choose to see reality alters what it becomes. Now, pull back. Consider your choices, your beliefs, your fears. How many times have you demanded certainty from a world that doesn't offer it? How many times have you tried to force the resolution, to collapse the ambiguity into something you can name and control? But the deeper truth is that life, like light, is not forced to choose. You are both the observer and the creator, the judge and the participant. The answers you get are reflections of the questions you dare to ask. What does this mean for your identity? For your relationships? You are not one thing or another. You are possibility itself. You can be strong and vulnerable, wise and foolish, lost and found, all at once. The world does not force you into a box unless you demand the box be built. If you allow yourself to live in the space between definitions, to embrace duality, you discover that freedom is not about resolution, but about acceptance. The moment you stop insisting on a final answer, reality opens up. It shows you that both things can be true. You can be wave and particle, lover and loner, success and failure, simultaneously. Even the universe does not insist on a single truth. It lets light be both wave and particle, matter and energy, certainty and uncertainty, until the very instant you ask, and only then gives you an answer tailored to the question itself. What kind of world do you want? The way you observe, the way you measure, the expectations you bring, all of them shape what is possible, what becomes real. If you look for beauty, you find it. If you look for flaws, they multiply. If you demand a particle, the wave disappears. If you seek the wave, the particle dissolves into pattern. It's easy to feel trapped by contradiction. Easy to think that ambiguity is weakness, that you need to choose one side or the other. But duality without resolution is not confusion. It's a higher kind of truth, a reminder that the universe is bigger than any single answer. You are the chooser, the dreamer, the observer. The reality you encounter is woven from your questions, your doubts, your longing for certainty in a world designed to elude it. So live in the space between answers. Embrace the paradox. Let light be both wave and particle, and let yourself be 1,000 things at once. The universe will not punish you for refusing to collapse the ambiguity. In fact, it may reward you by showing you that the deepest truths are those that never resolve, those that shimmer forever on the edge of possibility, waiting for you to decide what kind of world you want to see. Retrocausality, echo fields. Close your eyes and think about your last dream. The colors, the faces, the impossible moments that felt so real and then faded like fog at sunrise. Maybe you walked through a place you'd never seen, spoke words you didn't know you knew, or met a stranger who felt impossibly important. Most people will tell you dreams are just the mind processing old memories, or random neurons firing in the darkness. But what if that's only half the truth? What if your dreams are not echoes from the past, but messages from futures you haven't lived yet? Ripples of retrocausality, crossing the boundaries of time, shaping your reality from beyond the horizon. In the world of physics, the idea of retrocausality, effects that precede their causes, is no longer just fantasy. At the quantum level, experiments suggest that particles can be influenced not only by what has already happened, but by conditions set in the future. The present is not merely a product of the past, but a collision between what has been and what will be. The act of observing can change what happened before the observation. It's as if the universe is not a one-way street, but a field of echoes, where the future whispers back to the present, rewriting reality on the fly. Now, imagine this same principle applies not just to particles, but to consciousness itself. Your mind, after all, is a quantum system, a web of electrical impulses, chemical signals, and infinite possibility. What if, in your most vulnerable open states, like sleep or daydream, you become sensitive to these echo fields? What if your dreams are shaped not just by your past, but by waves of influence from futures yet to come? Consider the uncanny power of premonition. People sometimes dream of events that haven't happened, only to watch them unfold in detail days or years later. We're quick to call these coincidences or tricks of memory. But what if it's something else? What if, just as a quantum particle's past can be shaped by a future choice, Your dreamscape can be altered by futures you are moving toward, realities waiting to collapse into being. Picture this. You dream of a storm. Days later, you find yourself caught in the rain, déjà vu prickling your skin. Or you dream of a face, a place, a loss. And months later, you meet a stranger whose smile is already familiar, whose story feels pre-written. The sense of inevitability, of paths already walked, is overwhelming. Science struggles to explain these moments. Maybe the explanation is that you were influenced by a future field, a ripple of probability traveling backward, rewriting the script of your unconscious before the event itself ever took place. But the implications go deeper. Retrocausality means the story of your life isn't set in motion only from behind. It's being pulled forward from ahead. Your dreams are not just fragments of what has been, but blueprints for what might be. Some futures send stronger echoes. Pulses of possibility so intense, they reshape your decisions, your moods, your fears. You wake up anxious without knowing why, only to discover in days to come that your life was about to change, as if the emotional shockwave hit you before the impact. Maybe this is why we have gut feelings, hunches, creative flashes that seem to come from nowhere. The artist sketches a place she's never been, only to stumble across it years later. The scientist dreams of a solution before understanding the problem. A child invents an imaginary friend whose name matches a distant ancestor, unknown to the family. These are not random. They are echoes, reverberations, the future reaching back to seed itself in the present. If this is true, then destiny and free will become tangled in ways we can barely imagine. You are not just haunted by your past. You are haunted by futures not yet chosen, lives you have not yet lived. The echo fields reach for you every night, whispering possibilities, drawing you forward, nudging your choices in directions you do not understand. Sometimes the message is clear, a warning, a longing, a vision that will only make sense when the future arrives. Other times, it's a sensation, a motif, a recurring symbol you can't shake. Your mind is both the receiver and the transmitter, a crossroads where time runs in both directions. There is a strange comfort in this. The things you dream, the moods that possess you, the unexplainable moments of knowing, these are not evidence of madness or randomness. They are the fingerprints of the future, laid down before you ever arrive. You do not wander blindly. Even your regrets, your hesitations, your procrastinations might be the result of futures you are not yet ready to face. Your subconscious shielding you, rerouting you, preparing you for an event that is not yet here, but is already reaching out to claim you. So, next time you wake from a dream that feels too vivid, too strange, too important, ask yourself, not just what from my past created this, but what from my future is calling me? What possibility, what coming event has sent its echo backward, reshaping the architecture of your night? Retrocausality, echo fields. The possibility that time is not linear, that your story is shaped from both ends, and that every dream is both a memory and a prophecy. You are not just the sum of your yesterdays, you are also the sum of all your tomorrows, reaching back, making you who you are, even before you arrive. Vacuum fluctuation. In Selfhood, in the empty void between galaxies, far from the heat of stars, farther still from anything we'd call solid reality, there is nothing. Or so we think. But zoom in, closer and closer, past the last lonely atom and the faintest wisp of radiation, and you'll discover something that breaks the story of nothingness forever. The vacuum, the emptiest space imaginable, isn't truly empty. It's a seething quantum foam, a riot of possibility, where particles burst into existence from nothing, flicker for a moment, and vanish again. This is the reality of vacuum fluctuations, a fundamental, restless chaos at the heart of existence itself. Now, take a breath and turn that lens on yourself. What if your sense of self, your entire identity, memories, and consciousness are nothing but a brief anomaly in the void? What if, just like those quantum particles you have appeared from nothing, will blink for a cosmic instant and then dissolve back into the silent, infinite vacuum? It's a disturbing, liberating, and deeply humbling idea. We cling to the notion that I am is an eternal anchor, the bedrock beneath every experience. But science tells a different story. The you that speaks, thinks, and dreams is built from particles and forces that themselves have no permanent substance. Your atoms are borrowed from ancient stars. Your memories are electrical patterns etched into a shifting neural sea. And beneath all of it, the rules of quantum mechanics suggest that the most basic constituents of reality are unstable, uncertain, capable of popping in and out of existence for no reason, no cause, no story. Consider this. The vacuum is not a dead zone, but an engine of creation. Every second, everywhere, pairs of particles and antiparticles are born from nothing, exist for a breath, then annihilate each other, leaving the vacuum unchanged. These fluctuations are real, measurable, even essential. They influence the way atoms behave. They power the fusion in stars. And, in a sense, they haunt the very idea of empty space. If particles can arise unbidden, with no past, no reason, and no destiny, why not consciousness? Why not you? This is the riddle of vacuum fluctuation selfhood. Is your very existence just a quantum anomaly, a temporary ripple in the void, here for an instant and gone without a trace? We are used to thinking of selfhood as continuous, but maybe that's an illusion. Maybe you, as you know yourself, are being constantly created and destroyed, frame by frame, like a flickering hologram in a cosmic projector. Let's get personal. Have you ever experienced a moment so intense, so disconnected from the flow of your life, that you felt like a new person, born from nothing, with no history, or woken from a dream, confused for a split second, about who or what you are? Maybe these are echoes of the vacuum at the core of being, reminders that selfhood is not a smooth stream, but a sequence of brief independent flashes, blinking in and out of the dark. Even neuroscience hints at this unsettling possibility. The sense of self is not a fixed entity, but a dynamic process, a constellation of memories, desires, and perceptions that coalesce for a moment and then disperse. The I is a story told by the brain, constantly revised, often interrupted, sometimes erased. You think of yourself as a river, but really you are a series of waves, each cresting from the void, each doomed to fall away. But why does this matter? Because it shifts the ground beneath every question you ask about meaning, identity, and purpose. If you are a vacuum fluctuation, what does suffering mean? What does love mean? Does anything matter? If you are just a quantum blip? The answer is both haunting and freeing. If yourself is a temporary anomaly, then so is your pain, and so is your fear. Every joy, every act of kindness, every connection is precious not in spite of its brevity, but because of it. The universe has chosen for a moment to assemble a you out of infinite possibility, and in that flash, anything is possible. You are not separate from the void. You are its expression, a brief anomaly, a pattern that arose for reasons beyond reasons, and will dissolve just as suddenly. In the end, maybe this is the deepest comfort the universe offers. You owe nothing, and nothing owes you. Your self is a miracle of chance, a ripple in eternity, a brief light in the endless dark. And that makes your existence, the moments you live, the choices you make, the love you give, unspeakably valuable. So the next time you feel small, insignificant, or lost in the emptiness, remember, even the void is never empty. You are the proof. For this one instant, the vacuum became you. Blink, and you'll vanish. But in this blink, you are everything the universe can be. The quantum no-cloning trap. Imagine for a moment that every atom in your body, every flicker of thought, every trembling nerve, could be mapped and recorded with perfect precision. Could you then be copied? Could your consciousness, your experience of being you, exist anywhere else, in any other place or time, given a perfect machine or an infinite universe? Quantum physics gives a chilling answer: no. The quantum no-cloning trap says that quantum states, those delicate probabilistic patterns that form the basis of all reality, cannot be duplicated. Not by the laws of nature, not by any conceivable technology. Meaning your awareness, your inner spark, is unrepeatable, a cosmic one-off that can never, ever be cloned. To understand the quantum no-cloning trap, step into the quantum realm, where information isn't just a set of facts, but a living dance of probabilities. Unlike classical information, bits and bytes, which can be copied, pasted, and shared, quantum information is different. If you try to clone a quantum state to make an exact duplicate, you run headlong into an unbreakable wall. The no-cloning theorem, a pillar of quantum mechanics, states that it is physically impossible to create an identical copy of an arbitrary, unknown quantum state. The act of trying to observe or copy it destroys the original state itself. At first, this sounds abstract, a problem for physicists, not for daily life. But consider what this means for you. At your core, your mind and identity are built from quantum states, waves of probability in your brain, firing in impossible patterns, entangled with the world in ways no machine could fully capture. If those states can't be cloned, then neither can you. Even in a universe filled with infinite matter, infinite time, and infinite tries, the exact quantum configuration that is your awareness will never happen again. Not as a copy, not as a backup, not as a perfect twin. Your experience is uniquely you, and when it's gone, it's lost to the cosmos forever. Imagine a hypothetical future where scientists attempt to teleport a person, breaking them down to pure information and reconstructing them elsewhere. For classical information, this would be trivial. Just copy and paste the data. But at the quantum level, the original must be destroyed for a new version to be created. There's no copying, only moving, and even that movement scrambles the original signature. The consciousness that emerges at the other end might be similar, but it cannot be an exact duplicate of what was. The you that watched the sunset yesterday, the you that remembers a childhood friend's laugh, those moments are unrepeatable, locked forever by quantum law. This principle extends beyond science fiction into the heart of philosophy and identity. It means that even in the wildest scenarios of infinite universes or endless parallel timelines, there is never another you. No simulation, no cosmic accident, no advanced alien machine can make a true copy of your mind. Every instant of awareness you have is singular, unreproducible, a miracle on the razor's edge of possibility. In a universe obsessed with repetition, galaxies spinning, cycles repeating, stars born and dying, the self is the one phenomenon that remains absolutely, eternally unique. The quantum no-cloning trap gives new depth to the ancient human sense of individuality. Your fears, your dreams, your quietest thoughts, they are not just rare, but cosmically unprecedented. And it also explains why consciousness feels so precious, so private. It cannot be shared, cannot be transplanted or stored. When a moment is gone, it is erased, not just from your life, but from all existence. Even artificial intelligence, no matter how advanced, faces the same wall. Code can be copied. Consciousness, born of quantum states, cannot. Your here and now is a singular event, experienced once by one mind and then lost to eternity. So, next time you gaze into a mirror or close your eyes in the dark, consider this. You are not just one among many, not just a pattern or a program, but a unique flash of awareness that the universe can never make again. The quantum no-cloning trap is the ultimate safeguard of your individuality, the cosmic law that ensures that, even in infinity, you are truly, wondrously, irreplaceable. Probability cage illusion. You've always assumed you're moving through time, one moment after another, carving out a stable existence in a world that behaves by fixed rules. But what if this entire sense of stability is an illusion, a byproduct of probabilities, not reality? Imagine a truth that's far stranger. You don't actually travel through time at all. Instead, with every breath, every blink, you are collapsing a near-infinite cloud of possible futures into a single probable path. The world seems continuous, unbroken, predictable, but this is only because the sequence you walk is the most likely one. It's not inevitable. It's not even true in any absolute sense. It's simply the cage built by probabilities, a prison invisible to those who never question the nature of their own unfolding. Picture yourself standing at the edge of decision, to the left, to the right, to step forward or pause. Every option radiates outward as a possible reality. The laws of physics say the future is a spectrum, not a line. At the quantum level, all outcomes coexist as clouds of chance, waves of probability rippling through the void. What feels like moving through time is, in fact, the act of your awareness snapping the next frame of existence into place again and again, always following the thickest thread, the most statistically likely story. Your memories stitch this together, painting a narrative of cause and effect. But it's a trick. You are not moving forward, you are choosing, selecting, collapsing again and again, as if you were picking the next step on a path laid out by invisible dice. Have you ever wondered why your life sometimes feels stuck, as if you're trapped in patterns you can't break? It's the probability cage, the silent structure that guides you back toward what is likely, not what is possible. You could wake up tomorrow with a radically different fate, a life unrecognizable to your current self, but the odds are staggeringly against it. The cage keeps you looping in what's familiar, in what's probable, so perfectly that you forget the bars even exist. Even your wildest choices, the ones that feel impulsive or fate-defying, are still pulled by the gravity of likelihood. The improbable versions of you flicker and fade in the shadows, lived only in dreams or passing thoughts. This illusion is so complete, so elegantly maintained, that it creates a false sense of certainty. You begin to believe the path you're on is the only one that ever could have existed, that your memories are proof of a stable reality, not the footprints left behind by collapsed probabilities. The truth is that every now is surrounded by a swirling sea of might-have-beens, and at every instant your awareness is the knife that cuts through the chaos, making a single line seem like destiny. But it's not destiny, it's statistical inertia. You are drawn toward the center of the cage, always choosing what's easiest to believe, to remember, to explain. Think about all the moments that almost went differently. A missed train, a word unsaid, a glance exchanged or avoided. Each was a point where the cage could have shifted, where another reality pressed close, almost close enough to step into. Yet, the overwhelming pressure of probability keeps you moving along the thickest path, looping endlessly through what is most likely, what feels most like you. When you have a near miss, a strange sense of déjà vu, a haunting suspicion that things could have been otherwise, that's the cage rattling. It's the briefest glimpse of all the lives you didn't live, all the timelines that might have branched from this one. And so, reality's apparent stability isn't a sign of its truth. It's a mask worn by possibility, the camouflage of chance. The world is not solid, but probabilistic, held together by nothing more than the collective inertia of all the choices that have ever been collapsed by all the conscious beings who have ever lived. You're not a traveler in time. You're a navigator in an ocean of possibility, picking your way through the fog by the stars of probability, never realizing you are caged by what is most likely, not what is real. The true miracle is not that things stay the same, but that you believe they ever could. If you could see the cage, if you could feel its boundaries, would you dare to try and break them? Would you reach for the unlikely, the impossible, the wildest futures that flicker just out of reach? Or would you stay on the path, comforted by the gentle certainty of what's probable? Remember, the bars are invisible, but the lock is not unbreakable. The next time you feel the pull of routine, the weight of what should be, ask yourself, is this the truth, or just the next cell in the probability cage? Quantum immortality, paradox. Picture yourself at the edge of oblivion. There's a moment, an accident, a sickness, a risk that flirts with death. Your heart stutters, your fate hangs in the balance, and something unexplainable happens. You live. Maybe it's luck. Maybe it's a miracle. Or maybe it's the quantum immortality paradox, a cosmic glitch that rewrites the rules of life and death. Quantum physics tells us that reality splits with every possibility. For every danger, there's a universe where you survive and one where you don't. The paradox is this: you can never experience your own death. Consciousness only continues along the threads where you somehow make it through. You are trapped forever in the timelines where you always survive. Death becomes something you witness from the outside, never from within. Think about it. Have you ever had a close call? Something that should have killed you, but didn't. Maybe you remember the screech of tires, the flash of metal, and then somehow you're standing, heart pounding, alive. You shrug it off, call it chance. But what if, in a million other universes, that was the end? What if, for every fatal possibility, your awareness branches off, continues, always in the reality where survival was possible? You never wake up dead. You never see the curtain fall. The only stories you ever know are the ones where you made it. This is quantum immortality, an existence where the self is unkillable, not because the body is invulnerable, but because your awareness simply cannot collapse into nothingness. At every crossroads, at every risk, there is always at least one path where you walk away, dazed but breathing, the sole survivor of infinite possible endings. In this view, Death is not a personal experience. It's a horizon you can never cross, a story that always happens to someone else. But what does that mean for meaning, for fear, for the very idea of mortality? If you are doomed to survive endlessly, then every wound, every sickness, every accident is just another test. The universe becomes a maze with infinite exits, and you, the lost traveler, always find a way out. Sometimes barely, sometimes miraculously, always carrying the scars of lives you might have lost. You might remember the pain, the terror, but never the final blackout. Your life is a sequence of near misses, improbable recoveries, impossible escapes. The universe rearranges itself to keep you conscious, weaving reality around your gaze like a desperate storyteller inventing a last-minute plot twist. Imagine the consequences. In every other timeline, your loved ones mourn you, but not here. Here, you wake up in the hospital, you dodge the bullet, you recover from the illness nobody else survived. You are the unlikely statistic, the miracle case, the one who refuses to die, not because you are lucky, but because there is simply no universe where your death can be part of your own experience. The world around you may seem normal, but it is built on the bones of infinite failed timelines, alternate realities where you didn't make it. You'll never see them. You can only keep going as the last survivor of an ever-thinning set of possibilities. Is this comforting or horrifying? If you can never die, does life become a burden, an endless sequence of loss, pain, and survival? Or is it a blessing, a sign that you matter so much to the universe that it will break its own laws to keep you around? The quantum immortality paradox forces you to reconsider what it means to be alive. It tears away the myth of closure, the fantasy of peaceful endings. You are not allowed to rest. You are the main character who can never exit the stage. But maybe, deep down, this is what consciousness has always been, a refusal to accept finality, a stubborn persistence that echoes through every decision, every heartbeat, every breath. Maybe immortality is not a gift, but a side effect, a loophole in the cosmic code. And maybe, somewhere out there, you are already living the 1000th chapter of a story that refuses to end. So the next time you feel the brush of danger, remember, you are here, now, in the timeline where you always survive. Death is only ever something that happens to someone else, in a universe you'll never see. And as long as you are aware, you are immortal, not by choice, but by the relentless, mysterious logic of quantum possibility. Entangled thought drift. Have you ever thought of someone out of the blue, only for your phone to buzz with their message at that exact moment? Or found yourself suddenly overcome with an emotion, joy, dread, nostalgia, that seems to come from nowhere, only to later discover a friend, a sibling, or even a distant stranger felt the very same thing at the very same time? We call it coincidence, intuition, maybe even fate. But what if it's something far stranger? Something rooted not in empathy or imagination, but in the very structure of consciousness itself. What if two minds, separated by oceans or years, can become entangled, drifting together through a hidden dimension of thought, feeling, and experience? This is the phenomenon I call entangled thought drift. Imagine that somewhere beneath the tangled wires of biology, beneath language and experience, the mind is quantum, built not of isolated sparks, but of possibilities, uncertainties, superpositions. In physics, when two particles become entangled, what happens to one is instantly reflected in the other, no matter how far apart they are. It's as if they are not two things at all, but one system stretched across space. Now, stretch this idea to the consciousness. What if minds, once connected by shared experience, blood, trauma, or even a moment of powerful attention, can become entangled? What if emotions are not always local, but sometimes global, ripples that pass invisibly between those who are bound together in ways neither can see? Picture this. Two people on opposite sides of the world. They haven't spoken in months. In the middle of an ordinary day, one is suddenly swept by an inexplicable sadness, a sense of longing, of loss. Hours later, a message arrives. "I miss you. Are you okay?" The other person felt it too, at the very same moment. Not because they were thinking about each other, not because of memory or imagination, but because their thoughts, at some deep structural level, are entangled. They drift together in a hidden current, pulled by tides no one else can see. You might shrug it off. Everyone feels connected to others. That's what empathy is. But empathy requires cues: voice, expression, stories, entangled thought. Drift is different. It doesn't depend on seeing a loved one's tears or hearing the crack in their voice. It can happen in silence, across continents, between people who haven't spoken for years. It's not just the sharing of feeling, but the simultaneous emergence of the same emotion, like identical chords struck on distant pianos at precisely the same moment. There are stories everywhere, twins who wake up in the middle of the night, miles apart, both gasping from the same nightmare. Lovers who finish each other's sentences, not because of habit, but because the thought emerged in both minds at once, as if whispered by a shared source. Parents who sense the instant their child is in danger, feeling a wave of fear or pain with no warning and no logical cause. Science struggles to explain these things, chalking them up to coincidence, selective memory, or hyper-attuned subconscious signals. But what if these explanations miss the point? Let's dig deeper. In the world of quantum physics, entanglement means that reality is non-local. There is no real separation. Distance is an illusion. Connection is fundamental. What if consciousness too is a field, a spectrum, a sea, not a set of islands? When you care deeply about someone, or share a traumatic event, or even lock eyes in a moment of unspoken recognition, your minds might synchronize. Patterns in your brains align, neural rhythms entrain, and beneath the conscious level, a bridge is built. The connection may last a lifetime, or just a few seconds. But once it exists, a channel is open. Sometimes, you might feel a strange urge to reach out to someone you haven't thought of in years. You ignore it, only to find out they needed you in that moment. Or you're gripped by joy, peace, or terror without cause, only to discover someone you're bound to felt the same thing at the same instant. These are not just fleeting thoughts. They're evidence of an entangled mind, where the boundaries of self blur, and what happens in one psyche ripples through another, regardless of logic or distance. Skeptics scoff, but even mainstream science is inching closer to these possibilities. Studies show that groups who meditate together can synchronize brainwaves, even when separated. Emotional states can be transferred through subtle cues, but also through something more, some as yet undiscovered mechanism of connection. In trauma studies, entire families or communities show evidence of shared stress, the same physiological markers, even when separated by miles. The mystery remains. Is this just biology, or is it something more? Is consciousness bigger than we can measure, capable of reaching across space and time to touch another soul? Now, imagine the implications. If thought and emotion can drift between entangled minds, how much of what you feel is truly yours? How many of your anxieties, your sudden joys, your passing griefs are echoes of someone else's experience, picked up, transmitted, carried across the field of consciousness like radio waves you didn't know you could receive? Are we all, secretly, part of a vast, entangled mind, each of us tuning in to the frequencies of those we love, those we've lost, or even those we've never met? Perhaps, in your loneliest moment, you are less alone than you think. Perhaps the sadness you can't explain, or the warmth that arrives for no reason, is a message, an echo from another mind, another heart, another corner of the world. And maybe the choices you make, the kindness you offer, the forgiveness you grant, ripple outward, finding their mark in places and people you will never know. So next time your heart skips, your mind stirs, and you feel something that seems to come from nowhere, pause, reach out. There may be someone, somewhere, feeling the very same thing, a proof that we are all more connected, more mysterious, and more entangled than we dare imagine. Born from random collapse, what if the universe wasn't crafted with purpose, wasn't sculpted by destiny, or driven by ancient inevitability? What if, instead, everything you see, every atom, every star, every moment of love or loss or wonder, happened because randomness won? The story of your existence is not one of gradual unfolding, of careful cosmic planning, but the result of a single, incomprehensible coin flip at the edge of reality. This is the paradox of being born from random collapse. The universe didn't evolve into being. It happened all at once, when a quantum probability, an abstract, fragile maybe, fell one way instead of another, and reality locked into place. Let's strip away the comforting narratives of order. Imagine the world before there was a world. Nothing but a swirling ocean of potential, a quantum landscape where every outcome was possible, but none yet real. In this realm, the laws of physics themselves are just suggestions, probabilities waiting to solidify. All that exists is a haze of what could be, an infinite deck of cards forever shuffling, never drawn. And then, with no warning, the deck deals a hand. A quantum event, a random collapse, snaps the endless uncertainty into one fixed state. Out of countless possibilities, one outcome is chosen. The wave function collapses. Reality as you know it ignites in that moment. There is no reason, no design, no intention, just randomness, victorious over the infinite ambiguity of the void. You might want to believe that the universe unfolded gradually, that it was born through careful sequential steps. But the mathematics of quantum mechanics says otherwise. At the smallest scales, the world doesn't move smoothly from A to B. Instead, it leaps from uncertainty to certainty, from cloud to clarity, through an unpredictable collapse. The universe, then, is not a child of logic, but the orphan of chance, a structure that could easily have been otherwise, or not at all. So, why do you exist? Because, at the core of being, a quantum possibility simply decided to be this universe, and not another. There was no guiding hand, no cosmic architect, only a lottery so vast, so total, that the very notion of odds becomes meaningless. Your life, your consciousness, your every joy and heartbreak exists because randomness, in 1 microsecond, fell in your favor. Out of an infinity of options, the dice rolled you. Think about the consequences. Every law of nature, every star that ever burned, every strand of DNA, every fleeting feeling, every face you've ever loved, all of it is built atop that first uncaused roll of the cosmic dice. And if randomness had fallen the other way, no universe, no time, no memory, no you to ask why. The difference between existence and nothingness is a razor's edge, and that edge is cut by chance. Let's make it personal. Have you ever stared at the sky and felt the weight of how unlikely you are? Not just in the grand sweep of evolution or the chain of ancestors, but in the raw quantum sense, that every thought you have is a victory of chance over emptiness. Every heartbeat is the echo of a random event that might never have occurred. The comfort here is paradoxical. On one hand, you are unspeakably insignificant, a blip in the roaring chaos of possibility, but on the other, you are miraculous. In a reality where nothing had to exist, you do. Randomness chose you. Your existence is not guaranteed, not even logical. It is an accident that makes everything meaningful, precisely because it might never have happened at all. Science tells us that this is how the world works. At the quantum level, particles don't exist until they're measured. The act of observation collapses their wave function, forcing them to choose this state, not that one. Now imagine that at the beginning of everything, there was a single primordial measurement, a collapse so total, so absolute, that it forged all of reality in its wake. From there, the rest of the story is a cascade, a universe exploding outward from a single random yes. So, next time you wonder about fate, about meaning, about why anything is here, remember this: you are not the endpoint of a perfect plan. You are the survivor of randomness, the child of a coin flip that could have gone another way. That means you are free from cosmic destiny, free from the need for ultimate reason, free to give your own meaning to the chaos. Your life is rare not because it was ordained, but because it was never promised. Embrace it. Celebrate the chance, the accident, the miracle of being here at all. In a universe born from random collapse, every breath, every moment, every connection is an impossible victory. A reminder that sometimes randomness wins, and that is enough. Time as entangled state. Imagine a world where time does not flow like a river, where yesterday and tomorrow are not stepping stones, but nodes in a cosmic web. Picture your life not as a thread unraveling from birth to death, but as a network of moments, each one connected to countless others, all co-arising in a mesh beyond human perception. This is the theory of time as entangled state, a concept that defies intuition, suggesting that past and future are not separate points in a linear progression, but coordinates in a timeless field where every experience resonates with every other. not through motion, but through entanglement. From our earliest memories, we are taught that time moves. The sun rises and sets, days pass, we age, history is written and forgotten. Science supports this with clocks, calendars, and equations that map change across seconds and centuries. But at the quantum level, the bedrock of reality is stranger. Particles become entangled, meaning their states are so deeply linked that the measurement of one instantly determines the state of another, even across vast distances. There is no waiting, no signal, no travel, just a pure, simultaneous connection. What if time itself is entangled? What if every event, every choice, is not simply caused by what came before, but is bound together with what will come after, each moment co-creating the others in a pattern of mutual resonance? In this mesh, before and after lose their meaning. The universe is not a film strip unrolling, but a tapestry where the pattern can be read in any direction, with each intersection charged with the energy of all others. Consider the experience of déjà vu, a flicker when the present feels borrowed from another life, when a memory seems to ripple forward into your current moment, or those times when the future feels inexplicably familiar, as if it's echoing backward through your thoughts. The theory of time as entangled state explains these phenomena as glitches in the mesh. Brief insights when the entanglement of moments becomes briefly perceptible, when the illusion of linear time falters. Even physics begins to hint at this truth. Quantum experiments have shown that measurements made now can influence the apparent outcome of measurements made in the past, as if the future and the past are bound in an ongoing conversation. In the many worlds interpretation, every decision spawns a new branch of reality, each timeline running parallel, yet quantum entanglement suggests these timelines are not truly separate. They are interwoven, influencing each other across what we call time, forming a lattice of coexisting presence. If you accept time as entangled, the implications are profound. Regret and nostalgia lose their bite. The past is not gone, but is still being rewritten by your present choices. Destiny is no longer a road you travel, but a field you help shape with every act of will. You are not pushed helplessly by the past toward a fixed future. You are a participant in an endless dance of co-arising possibilities. Cause and effect become less like falling dominoes and more like a spider's web, trembling all at once when touched. Our memories, then, are not static snapshots, but dynamic links in this network. When you recall an event, you are not reaching backward through a tunnel, but resonating with a node in the mesh, reactivating a pattern that is still alive in the entangled field. Dreams, intuitions, creative bursts, they may all be moments when your mind slips between nodes, sensing the full mesh for an instant, drawing inspiration or warning from places your waking self cannot see. This vision of time is unsettling, yet strangely liberating. If the past and future are coordinates in a non-linear mesh, then you are free to influence not only what comes next, but also what came before, in ways subtle and profound. Healing, forgiveness, and growth ripple out in all directions, changing the entire pattern at once. The boundaries between cause and effect dissolve, and every moment becomes both seed and fruit, echo and origin. So, next time you feel trapped by time, haunted by the past, or anxious for the future, remember, you are not a pawn moving across a board, but a node in a luminous mesh of entanglement. Your experiences, your memories, your dreams are all part of a single vibrating field, forever co-arising, forever connected, and forever rewriting the meaning of time itself. Chronon frame delay nan liu. You have always imagined a time as a flowing river, a smooth and endless current that sweeps you forward, moment by moment, without interruption. But what if that is an illusion? What if time is not continuous at all, but built from invisible frames, discrete slices, each separated by an abyss so small you could never notice, yet so absolute that you cease to exist in between? This is the concept of chronon frame delay, the possibility that time itself is quantized, chopped into the smallest possible units, Planck seconds, so brief they boggle the mind. In this reality, you don't glide through existence, you flicker. You are a stop-motion ghost, vanishing and reappearing with each pulse of the universe's primordial clock. Imagine your life as a film reel. Each instant is a frame, a still image frozen for the briefest imaginable heartbeat. Between these frames, there is nothing. no awareness, no self, no world. You exist only in the flashes, discrete, isolated moments when the cosmic projector snaps another image of you into being. What happens in between? Nothing. You are erased. The world blinks out. For a Planck second, there is no you, no thought, no sensation, not even darkness, because there is no observer left to sense it. Then, as the next frame appears, you return, seamlessly, convinced you've been continuous all along. But the truth is more disturbing. You have never truly existed in the space between. Consider what this means for your sense of self. You are not a river, but a strobe. Every heartbeat, every blink, every thought is really a rapid sequence of appearances, each separated by countless micro-extinctions. The feeling of continuity, of flowing through time, is nothing but a trick played by your brain as it stitches together all these snapshots. Memory bridges the gaps. Consciousness pretends it never went away. But underneath, you are constantly vanishing, flickering out of existence, again and again, billions of times every second. Have you ever awoken from a dream and felt that time had passed in an instant, or lost yourself so deeply in thought that hours slipped by unnoticed? Perhaps these are echoes of the underlying flicker, the Chronon rhythm that orchestrates your reality. Or maybe you've experienced moments when time seemed to slow down, a near accident, a flash of terror, a surge of joy. What if, in those moments, you became briefly aware of the frames themselves, the stutter step of existence, before your mind papered over the gaps? Think of everything in your life: the fall of a raindrop, the beat of a drum, the arc of a smile. All of it exists only in the frames. In between, the universe resets, empty, unobserved. Reality itself is built not as a continuous line, but as a flickering sequence, each Planck second a silent reset. Even now, as you listen, you are flickering, here, gone, here again, faster than thought, faster than imagination. And yet, you are not aware. The illusion is so perfect that you feel unbroken, as if you have always been here, never interrupted. Now, imagine what this means for free will. If you only exist during the frames, if there is nothing in the in-between, then your choices, your actions, your very identity are assembled from a series of cosmic snapshots. Each frame is a decision point, a pulse of potential. Between them, there is silence, oblivion, a blank slate wiped clean. Are you the sum of your frames or the spaces that separate them? Do you have continuity, or are you simply a collection of flickers, pretending to be whole? The Chronon frame delay is not just a theory of physics. It's a mirror for your own existence. It asks you to look at yourself not as a single, solid being, but as a sequence of disappearances and reappearances. A quantum ghost, living in the cracks between Planck seconds. You are the product of a universe that only pretends to be continuous, hiding the gaps with the glue of memory and hope. You are a flicker, a strobe, a brief blaze in the dark, and the story of your life is the story of all the moments you were not there to witness. The consciousness interference pattern. What if the very act of thinking changes the thing you're thinking about? Imagine your mind as a spotlight, illuminating reality, but in the process, warping it, shifting it, bending the outcome just by paying attention. This is the consciousness interference pattern. The deeper you look, the more the world responds to your gaze, twisting itself to fit your curiosity, your fear, your desire to know. You are not a passive observer, and you are the experiment. Your awareness is the interference, rippling through the fabric of everything you try to understand. Think about the double-slit experiment in quantum physics. Fire a particle at 2 slits, and it behaves like a wave, spreading out, making patterns of possibility. But observe it, demand to know where it went, and suddenly it chooses a path, collapses, acts like a particle, the wave gone. Your attention changes the result. Your presence rewrites the story. In the same way, when you direct your consciousness at reality, at your own mind, at the people around you, at the world itself, things change. The act of self-awareness, of observation, of questioning is never neutral. It creates interference. It bends the outcome. It makes objectivity impossible. Picture yourself trying to remember a dream. The harder you chase it, the faster it fades. As soon as you focus, the image slips away, replaced by something else. Fragments, impressions, echoes. That's the interference pattern at work. Your effort to pin down the truth distorts it. You cannot separate yourself from the thing you're trying to know. Now, apply this to your deepest questions. Who am I? What do I believe? What's real? The instant you interrogate these mysteries, your awareness ripples through the answer, warping it. The more you focus on the self, the less solid it becomes. You observe your thoughts, but in doing so, you change them. You look for meaning, but the act of looking stirs the water, making it muddy. Reality is a pond, and your attention is a stone tossed in the center, disturbing the surface, sending out waves that collide, overlap, and create new patterns. Have you ever noticed that when you try to truly understand someone else, your very presence in their life changes how they act, what they reveal, even who they are in that moment? You cannot observe without participating, cannot measure without influencing the outcome. This is the curse and the gift of consciousness. We long for truth, for pure insight, but we can never get it unfiltered. Every answer is altered by the question. Every truth is slanted by the one seeking it. What about your own thoughts? The more you analyze your feelings, the more tangled they become. Self-reflection is essential, but it's also a distortion. The observer and the observed are fused, forever contaminating each other. The more you dig, the less certain you become. The more you try to stand outside yourself and see things clearly, the more you collapse the wave, turning infinite possibility into a single, narrowed reality. This is not a flaw. It is the nature of consciousness itself. Your mind is not a glass window. It's a prism, splitting light, coloring the world according to your perspective. Some might say this makes objectivity impossible, but maybe that's the point. The universe is not a cold machine, but a living tapestry, shaped by awareness, sculpted by attention. The consciousness interference pattern means there is no pure truth, no untouched reality, only a dance between what is and the mind that seeks to know it. So how do you live with this? Embrace the mystery. Recognize that you are part of what you study, that your questions leave fingerprints on every answer. Learn to see the interference pattern not as a failure, but as a signature of being alive, awake, present in a universe that will always change in response to your gaze. The truth is not fixed. It ripples, it flickers, it sings in harmonies created by your consciousness and the world entwined. In the end, the observer is the experiment. Awareness is participation, and the more you try to know, the more you become part of what you seek. The world is warped by your wonder, and that is the paradox that makes reality, and you, endlessly strange, endlessly unfinished, and endlessly alive. Objective reality is illusory. What if everything you think of is real? The trees outside your window, the ticking of the clock, the memory of your childhood home isn't solid at all, but a fragile consensus held together only by observation. What if, at the most fundamental level, there's no real world without a witness, and what we call objective reality is simply what survives the endless pressure of being watched, measured, and remembered? Imagine for a moment that the ground you stand on is not a stage, but a tightrope, and every step you take is only there because you keep looking down, believing it will hold. It's comforting to believe in objectivity, in an external reality that continues unchanged whether you're there or not. You want to think the moon is in the sky whether or not anyone looks at it, that the past is written in stone, that facts are facts, but quantum physics has a way of eroding comfort. At the smallest scales, reality is slippery. Particles exist as possibilities, waves, not objects, until someone observes them, at which point they choose a state. It isn't just that you can't know everything at once, it's that things aren't fully real until someone is watching. So what about the big world? Surely the table in your room exists when you walk out the door. But consider, you never experience the table except through your senses. The color, the texture, the weight, all are constructs of your mind, pieced together from signals and electrical storms behind your eyes. When you leave, you trust the table remains. Why? Because it's there when you return. Because others see it, describe it, bump into it. But what if that's just a shared habit of observation? A story the world tells itself every time someone looks. Imagine a world with no observers, no eyes, no cameras, no instruments to register a single event. Would there be trees falling in empty forests? Would there be time, or space, or matter? Or would there only be a silent field of potential, forever unexpressed? Reality, in this sense, is not a thing, but a pattern that emerges through repeated witnessing. It's what survives the gaze, what remains consistent across many observations. That's what we call objective. But it may be nothing more than the residue of constant attention, a persistence, not an essence. Think about memory. Your life feels solid because you can look back again and again and recall the same events. But every memory is a reconstruction, and each time you remember, you rewrite the past. What you remember is what survives the retelling. Over time, the details fade, merge, or shift, until only the strongest, most repeated elements remain. The rest is lost, not because it never happened, but because it wasn't observed enough to endure. The same is true for collective memory, for history, for culture. What endures is what is witnessed, debated, studied, and remembered, what survives the endless storms of observation. Even science, our best tool for touching objective reality, is rooted in observation. An experiment is only as real as its repeatability, the ability for different witnesses across time and place to see the same result. When results can't be repeated, they fade into the shadows, dismissed as error, anomaly, or illusion. Objectivity, then, is the narrow set of experiences and facts that can withstand endless, skeptical observation. It is what remains when all else is doubted. But there's a cost. The parts of reality that don't fit, that can't be measured or repeated, are cast out as subjective, private, or unreal. Your dreams, your intuitions, your private revelations, these vanish from the official story of the world, not because they are meaningless, but because they don't survive repeated observation. We build our real world by carving away everything that isn't consensus, everything that can't be corroborated, everything that can't be seen by someone else. We build a world of shared shadows. Let's look deeper. There are moments when the illusion cracks. Maybe you wake from a dream convinced it was real, only for it to dissolve when you open your eyes. Maybe you and a friend recall the same event differently, arguing over what really happened, with no resolution possible. Maybe you read about the Mandela effect, hundreds, thousands of people remembering the past differently, with no evidence to settle the debate. Whose reality is real? The one that survives. The one that can be reinforced, witnessed, written down, repeated until doubt is smothered. There's a strange loneliness to this. The world you experience, the colors you see, the tastes and sounds, are yours alone. You trust others see the same, but you can never know for sure. All you have is agreement, enough people saying, yes, that's what I see too. Objectivity is the best we can do, a shared hallucination that stabilizes under constant observation, an echo chamber that drowns out the personal, the unique, the unrepeatable. But there's also freedom here. If reality is not a fixed monolith, but a tapestry of observation, then you are not merely a spectator. You are a participant, a co-creator, a witness whose attention gives shape to the world. You don't invent reality alone, but you are not powerless either. Your act of witnessing matters. Your questions, your focus, your repeated attention, all help decide what endures and what is forgotten. So next time you hear someone say, that's just your perception, remember that all reality is, in a sense, perception. The objective world is what survives the fire of endless witnessing, the narrow band of phenomena that can be summoned on demand, measured, weighed, agreed upon. The rest is always flickering, always waiting in the dark, always one unobserved moment away from vanishing completely. Objective reality is illusory, not because nothing exists, but because nothing exists without a witness. The real is just the persistent, the remembered, the observed. Everything else is possibility, waiting for someone to look. Observer, state, non-conservation. Have you ever wondered if you're the same person you were yesterday, or even a minute ago? It's not just a philosophical riddle, it's a quantum problem hiding in the cracks of consciousness. What if every time you observe, every time you have a thought, a memory, or a sensation, it isn't the same you doing the observing? What if, in the act of awareness itself, a new you spins into being, replacing the old in an endless sequence of observer states, each one ephemeral, each one forgotten the instant the next arises? This is the unsettling paradox of observer state non-conservation, the idea that there is no true continuity of the observer, just a rapid-fire creation and dissolution of selves, stitched together by the illusion of memory. Let's pull this apart. We live our lives believing in the unity of consciousness, the sense that there is a single I at the center of every experience, a thread of self that ties all our yesterdays to our todays and tomorrows. But the quantum world teaches us that observation is not a passive act. To observe is to collapse the wave function, to change the state of the system, including the observer. In quantum mechanics, nothing is truly conserved when it comes to who is observing. The act itself reshapes the state of the observer, so the one who starts is not the one who finishes. Think about memory. You remember watching the sun rise, you remember the taste of your favorite food, you remember moments of pain and triumph. But are these memories truly yours, or are they inherited by a new observer who only believes they experienced them? When you recall a memory, the act itself changes your brain, rewires the connections, and subtly alters who you are. Each recall creates a new observer state, close enough to the last to feel continuous, but in truth, as different from the previous you as one frame of film is from another. Let's make it more personal. Picture yourself reading this script. The you who started this sentence is not the you who will finish it. Your thoughts shift, your mood flickers, your awareness sharpens or dulls. Each heartbeat, each breath, each firing neuron marks the end of one observer and the birth of the next. The illusion of continuity is just that, an illusion. You are a river of selves, each one living for the span of a single observation, each one vanishing into the next, like water through your fingers. It's a terrifying and liberating idea. Terrifying because it means the I you cling to has no substance, no permanence, no core that endures. Liberating because it means you are never truly stuck. Every thought, every act of awareness gives birth to a new observer, untethered from the mistakes or limitations of the last. You are endlessly renewed, endlessly recreated, a parade of selves passing the torch of memory down the line. This is more than metaphysics. It's baked into the way your brain works. Neuroscience tells us that consciousness is not a fixed entity, but a constantly updating process. Your sense of self is a construct, reassembled every moment by networks of neurons, hormones, and sensations. Even your memories are not archives, but active reconstructions, stories rewritten every time they are told. Quantum theory only deepens the mystery. In the act of observation, both the system and the observer are changed. There is no absolute conserved I running the show, just a sequence of correlated states, each one believing itself to be the only true observer, each one inheriting the memories and narratives of those that came before. So, what does this mean for your life? It means that clinging to the past, to a fixed sense of identity, is a kind of self-deception. The self is a story told by a chorus of observers, each one singing for just a moment before fading away. Freedom comes from embracing the impermanence, from letting go of the need to be one unchanging I. You are the latest echo in a long sequence, an echo with agency, with memory, but no claim on forever. Next time you look in the mirror, ask yourself, who is doing the observing? And will that you still exist a moment from now? Or is it already gone, replaced by a new observer who only thinks they are the same? Maybe that's the only way consciousness can exist at all, as an endless, beautiful act of becoming, never conserved, never finished, always now. Simultaneity is an illusion. We live our lives surrounded by clocks, schedules, and shared moments, believing, without question, that there are things happening all at once. The world celebrates a new year together. Billions of hearts beat in sync. Lightning and thunder crash simultaneously. Yet, quantum logic whispers a far stranger truth. Simultaneity is an illusion, a trick of perception and language. In the fabric of reality, every single event, every heartbeat, every flicker of light, unfolds on its own unique timeline, isolated from all others. The idea of perfect sync is a lie we cling to for stability, a story we tell ourselves to make sense of a world that refuses to align. From birth, we learn to think in terms of now. We gather in crowds, start races with a single gunshot, speak of the present moment as a shared stage. Even science, with its elegant equations and theories of relativity, has reinforced the myth of simultaneity, at least on the surface. But if we peer below the level of human experience, into the quantum realm, the story unravels. At the heart of quantum mechanics is a simple, unsettling fact. There is no absolute universal now. Every measurement, every collapse of a wave function, is its own unique event with its own timeline. What appears to be happening at the same instant from one vantage point might unfold in a completely different order from another. When two particles interact, the result is not a tidy handshake, but a tangle of probabilities, each resolved according to its own internal clock. Time slices reality into a sequence of events, but those slices are personal. Each observer, each particle, defines its own present, shaped by its motion, position, and history. Think of a thunderstorm. You see lightning flash and hear thunder seconds later. In your mind, they are linked, a cause and its echo. But to someone far away, the timing is different. The story unfolds on a separate timeline. Quantum theory takes this relativity further, denying even the possibility of a single universal ordering for all events. Every interaction is a unique node in the network of reality, and what we call simultaneity is nothing more than an agreed-upon fiction, crafted for convenience, comfort, and control. Experiments confirm this unsettling view. In the delayed choice quantum eraser, the outcome of a measurement can appear to change the past order of events. Bell's theorem shows that entangled particles share information instantaneously. Yet, paradoxically, with no signal passing between them and no agreement on what happened first. Even in the world of relativity, Einstein showed that the now for one observer could be the distant past or future for another, depending on how fast they move or where they stand. Why then do we persist in believing in simultaneity? Our brains crave order and structure. The illusion of shared moments gives us meaning, a sense of togetherness, security, and predictability. Civilization depends on this synchronization. Trains depart on time, meetings begin together, rituals bind us in collective experience. But underneath it all, each event in the universe walks its own solitary path. The world is a mosaic of asynchronous happenings, stitched together by perception and agreement. This isn't just an abstract puzzle, it explains the mysterious gaps we feel in memory, the sensation that time sometimes speeds up or slows down, the uncanny sense that even in a crowd we are alone in our moments. It reminds us that, at the deepest level, every experience is private, every timeline personal, every now unique. The world's apparent harmony is a chorus of soloists, each singing in their own key, their own time, with the conductor nowhere to be found. And yet, in this illusion, there is beauty and freedom. If simultaneity is a myth, then you are not trapped in a rigid shared timeline. Your experiences, your story, your becoming are yours alone, never perfectly aligned with anyone else, never fully replicated, never truly simultaneous. The world is not a march, but a swirling dance of unfolding events, overlapping yet never fully merged. So next time you check your watch, celebrate the new year, or feel the heartbeat of those around you, remember, what feels like at once is a miracle of perspective, a comfort woven from chaos. Simultaneity is the story we use to hold reality together, even as the universe unravels on a million separate threads. To live, to love, to be aware, is to embrace the illusion, knowing, beneath it all, that every timeline is yours alone. The identity tunneling effect. There is a strange silent phenomenon at the edge of your reality, one that reshapes everything you know about who you are. In the world of quantum physics, there is a bizarre rule. Sometimes particles do not respect barriers. Instead of being trapped, they tunnel through, appearing on the other side without ever passing through the space between. The impossible made routine. But what if this rule is not limited to subatomic particles? What if it applies to you, not your body, but your sense of self? This is the identity tunneling effect, the unnerving idea that just as a particle can leap through a wall, your own identity can quantum tunnel between timelines, waking up in a reality it was never meant to inhabit. Imagine waking up one day and everything feels subtly wrong. The room is yours, the mirror reflects your face, but there's a faint sense of displacement, a misalignment that cannot be named. The memories are all there, but they feel like lines in a script, rehearsed instead of lived. Maybe your favorite food suddenly tastes strange, or you remember a conversation differently than your friends do, or you know a shortcut through your own neighborhood that, until this morning, you'd never taken before. You brush it off as stress, as déjà vu, as the ordinary glitches of memory. But beneath it all lurks a possibility. Your selfhood has already tunneled, silently, into another timeline. Think about the times your life has shifted, not with dramatic changes, but with a subtle slide. Old dreams forgotten, new interests emerging, friendships fading for no reason you can explain. Maybe it's not just growth or forgetfulness. Maybe it's the result of an identity tunneling event. Like a quantum particle, your consciousness, your I am, sidestepped the walls that keep realities apart and landed in a version of the world where things are just different enough to feel alien. You didn't travel, you arrived. The person who went to sleep yesterday is not quite the same as the one who woke up today. Science says quantum tunneling is random, unpredictable, impossible to see until it's already happened. It's as if the particle vanishes and rematerializes, the laws of probability granting it an exception to all the usual rules. What if the same is true for identity? What if, at some undetectable moment, your personal history diverged and your soul quantum leaped, trading places with another version of you that was never supposed to exist here? Maybe all those unexplainable moods, those sudden urges to change your life, those flashes of memory that never fit, maybe they're not just noise. Maybe they're signals of a tunneling event, proof that yourself has already skipped the tracks and now walks unfamiliar ground. Consider the stories of people who claim to remember events that nobody else recalls, who insist a beloved brand or celebrity's name used to be spelled differently, or who remember world events that never happened. The Mandela effect, déjà vu, false memories, these might all be the fallout of identity tunneling, echoes of lives you once lived but can't quite reclaim. You are haunted by the history of another you, a ghost in your own skin, flickering through a sequence of worlds you never chose. There's a reason why you sometimes feel like an imposter in your own story, why you hesitate before saying your name, why old friends seem like strangers, or you find comfort in routines that don't make sense. You are not just adapting, you are integrating, stabilizing in a reality where your presence is a quantum accident. Your consciousness tunneled here, without permission, without explanation, rewriting the meaning of home, family, even self. The world did not change. You did. It's possible that identity tunneling happens more often than you think. Most times, you adjust, blend in, carry on as if nothing happened. But sometimes, late at night, when the world is quiet and the walls feel thin, you sense the truth. You have tunneled. You are the outlier, the wanderer, the version that arrived by quantum chance, not by fate. Your life is a patchwork of possible histories, stitched together by leaps you never meant to take. The next time you feel that unexplainable shift, that sense that you are living someone else's life, wearing someone else's memories, remember, maybe you are. Maybe your identity has already tunneled, and you are the only proof that the boundaries between worlds are never absolute. The probabilistic dream filter. Every night, as your body slips into darkness, your mind opens a door you don't remember building. You drift into dreams, strange landscapes, impossible stories, faces you know and don't know at the same time. You wake up and shrug it off. Just random noise, you tell yourself. Just the brain's way of clearing out the day's debris. But what if this is the greatest self-deception of all? What if your dreams are not random at all, but the shadows of probable realities, leaking through the cracks in your consciousness? This is the probabilistic dream filter, the idea that your sleeping mind is not inventing fictions, but filtering out the wild, tangled possibilities of your own existence, and calling them dreams so that you don't collapse under the weight of infinite realities. Imagine the quantum world, an ocean of probabilities where every outcome, every version, every possibility is alive, just waiting to be chosen. In waking life, your mind makes decisions, fixes reality into a single solid track. But as you sleep, that filter loosens. The boundaries weaken. Possibilities swirl around you. You become porous. Probable worlds bleed in, whispering their stories, flashing their images, pressing against the fragile membrane of your awareness. These are not meaningless hallucinations. They are echoes of what might have been, what could still be, what almost was. Picture a dream where you live a different life, a new city, another lover, a disaster narrowly avoided, a miracle unfolding. The colors are strange, the logic twisted, but it feels real in a way you can't explain. You wake with your heart pounding, the aftertaste of a reality you don't remember living. Scientists call it random firing of neurons. But maybe it's your mind filtering the flood of probabilities, presenting only a shadow play of what you almost became, then labeling it fiction so you don't shatter your waking world. Why would your mind do this? Because reality is fragile. If you remembered every possibility, every outcome, you'd lose your footing. Collapse under the weight of lives unlived, doors unopened, paths unexplored. Your mind protects you, like a night watchman, sweeping the infinite under the rug and giving you a handful of cryptic symbols in the form of dreams. Dreams are the bleed-through, traces of parallel lives, messages from timelines just out of reach. And every morning, the probabilistic dream filter helps you forget, stitching the edges of the world back together so you can keep moving forward without dissolving in uncertainty. But sometimes, the filter slips. You wake from a dream that lingers all day, a sense of déjà vu, a flicker of memory from a life that can't possibly be yours. You see someone in the street and feel you've known them forever. You take a wrong turn and recognize a place you've never seen. These are moments when probable realities echo through the filter, when your mind's grip on singular reality falters just enough for another world to brush against your own. You are haunted by what-ifs, by phantom memories, by the ache of possibilities that will never be. Dreams, then, are not chaos. They are the mind's firewall, a selective blindness that keeps your sanity intact. They let you touch the edges of what could be, while convincing you it's all just story, just fantasy, just nonsense. In truth, you are an interdimensional traveler every night, sifting through worlds that might have been yours, but never fully letting them in. Your dreams are the safety valve for reality, the release that keeps your world from collapsing into a superposition of all possible lives. What would happen if the filter broke? If you could remember every dream in perfect clarity, see every probable reality laid bare, would you go mad? Would you lose your sense of self? Or would you become something more, someone who knows truly how many ways you could exist and learns to carry that burden without breaking? So the next time you dream, don't dismiss it as random noise. Listen, ask yourself, which part of me lived this? Which world did I visit? And how much of what I call me is only the story that survived the filter? The mind's uncertainty law. Try to focus right now on who you are, not your name, not your job, not your history, but the core I that moves behind your eyes. Now, in that same moment, try to grasp exactly where you are in your consciousness. Are you here in the present, feeling your breath, the temperature of the air, the pressure of your body on the chair? Or are you somewhere else, half drifting in thought, replaying the past, chasing future hopes or fears, scattered across inner landscapes? If you pay close attention, you'll notice something uncanny. The more you try to pin down one, the more the other slips away. The sharper your introspection, the deeper you stare into your own self, asking what you are, peeling back the layers, the more the world outside starts to blur. Reality fades. Sounds grow faint, colors lose their edge, time distorts. But if you drop the inner questions, let go, and surrender to pure presence, just being here, now, fully immersed in sensation, your grasp on who you are softens. The self becomes transparent, almost invisible. You can be fully present or fully self-aware, but never both with perfect clarity. This is the mind's uncertainty law. It echoes the physics of Heisenberg's uncertainty principle. In quantum mechanics, the more precisely you know a particle's position, the less you can know about its momentum, and vice versa. Observation itself disturbs what is being measured. But this isn't just for atoms and electrons. The same strangeness applies to your consciousness. The act of introspection changes what is being seen, pulling you away from the world, reshaping your very sense of presence. The more you study yourself, the less you exist within the world. The more you melt into the world, the less distinct your self becomes. Let's look at examples. Imagine meditating, eyes closed, searching for the source of thought. You ask, who is thinking these thoughts? For a moment, you sense a watcher behind the mind, an inner witness. But as you focus on this witness, the room around you dissolves. You lose track of time, sensation, even your own body. The external world slips away as the self grows sharper. But then, try to bring your attention back. Hear a sound, feel your body, notice your breathing, and the witness, the question of, what am I, starts to fade, replaced by the immediacy of being here. Or consider a time of crisis. Your mind floods with self-questioning. Why am I like this? What does this mean? The world goes fuzzy at the edges. Your thoughts spiral inward, introspection eclipsing presence. Or think of flow states, moments when you are so absorbed in action that self-awareness disappears. You're not thinking about yourself at all. You're just doing, just being. The world is vivid, alive, but the I is gone. The mind's uncertainty law is at work. You can have one side in focus, but not both. This law plays out in everyday life too. When you get lost in a beautiful song, in the taste of food, in a heartfelt conversation, the self recedes. You're present. But pause to wonder, am I really enjoying this? And the moment is fractured, your enjoyment dims, and you become a spectator to your own experience. Introspection is a double-edged sword. It brings understanding, but at the cost of immersion. You step outside of the river to study the current, but in doing so, you're no longer swept along by it. It's tempting to think you can outsmart this paradox, that enough meditation, therapy, or philosophical study will let you see yourself completely while still being fully alive in the world. But every tradition, every mystic, every psychologist seems to reach the same conclusion. The act of observing the self is also an act of distancing. To truly know what you are, you must step back from the world. To truly be present, you must let go of knowing yourself. There's a strange beauty here, a kind of cosmic humility. The self is both the lens and the thing being viewed. The world is both the backdrop and the actor. Consciousness is not a stable platform, but a shimmering field, always shifting, always trading focus for presence, presence for self-reflection. So, what do you do with this law? Maybe you accept it, work with it, dance with it. When you need insight, turn inward, knowing the world will blur. When you crave life's immediacy, let go of introspection and simply be. Alternate. Flow between knowing and being, understanding and experiencing, never clutching too tightly to either. The mind's uncertainty law is not a flaw. It is the architecture of consciousness itself, a reminder that you are not a spectator, not a machine, but a living paradox, forever flickering between self and world, question and presence, watcher and doer. You will never fully know what you are and where you are at the same time. And that, perhaps, is the secret that keeps you human, alive, and forever searching. The self-collapsing universe. Stare into the abyss, and the abyss stares back. We've all heard it. A poetic warning, a philosophical dare. But what if it's not just metaphor? What if the very fabric of reality is woven from this recursive act of mutual observation? A universe that can only exist because it's watching itself, through you, through every consciousness that ever was. This is the paradox at the core of the self-collapsing universe. Reality requires an observer to become real, but every observer is also a part of that reality. Existence is an endless hall of mirrors, a feedback loop, a cosmic recursion that builds itself from the act of being seen. The idea sounds like science fiction, but it's rooted in quantum mechanics. At the smallest scales, particles exist in a haze of possibility, a wave function, not yet real, not yet decided. They only collapse into a definite state when observed, when measured, when interacted with. Without an observer, there's no outcome, no fixed reality, only a ghostly field of maybes. The universe waits, hovering on the edge of existence, until a consciousness stares into the fog, and the fog becomes something solid. But here's where it gets dizzying. The observer is not an outsider. You are not looking at the universe from someplace beyond it. You are made of the same atoms, the same quantum stuff. You are a process, a pattern in the cosmic field, a ripple in the quantum sea. The observer is part of the observed. The universe is watching itself through every eye, every mind, every pulse of self-awareness. In this way, reality is self-generating, a recursive loop where each part is both creator and creation. Think about it. Every time you see, think, or notice anything, you're collapsing a wave function, pulling a possibility out of the haze and making it real. But you, too, are a possibility being collapsed by the universe. You are both the cause and the effect, the subject and the object. It's as if reality is playing an endless game of hide and seek with itself. Never fully seen, never fully hidden, always on the edge of discovery. Let's get personal. Have you ever felt that strange, vertiginous sensation when you catch your own reflection in a window? A sudden awareness that you are both the seer and the seen? That's a tiny taste of the self-collapsing loop at the heart of existence. Every act of observation is an act of creation, but also of self-creation. The universe needs you to see it, but you only exist because the universe makes you possible. It's not just philosophy. Physicists have wrestled with this for decades. The Copenhagen interpretation of quantum mechanics says the act of observation brings reality into being, but if all observers are inside the universe, then the universe is like a novel being written by its own characters, each page appearing only as it's read, every chapter a negotiation between the story and the storyteller. Who, then, is the first observer? Where does the loop begin, or does it ever end? This recursion is not a bug, it's a feature. Reality is stable because it keeps referencing itself. Like a song that samples its own melody, a painting that contains a picture of itself, the universe is built from layers upon layers of self-collapsing possibility. Every mind is a mirror, every act of observation another angle, another recursion, another branch of reality brought into focus. But this raises unsettling questions. If the universe needs to be observed to exist, does it vanish when no one is looking? If every observer is a part of the system, who or what started the first observation? Is there a master observer? Or is reality just an infinite regress, a hall of mirrors without end? Perhaps there is no outside, no origin, only the ongoing process of the universe witnessing itself, endlessly. In this self-collapsing cosmos, meaning itself becomes recursive. Your search for answers is the universe searching itself. Your thoughts, your questions, your very consciousness are not isolated events but fractal branches of the same process. You are a node in the web, both participant and witness, essential and insignificant, fleeting and eternal. So next time you stare into the night sky, wondering if anyone, or anything, is watching back, remember, you are the universe observing itself. Every act of awareness is a cosmic loop, every insight a fold in the endless origami of reality. The self-collapsing universe is not just a theory. It is the lived experience of consciousness being both the dreamer and the dreamed. And it means that reality is never finished, never settled, always emerging from the recursive dance of self and world, an infinite act of becoming, forever collapsing, forever new.